Hello, everybody. Welcome back to week 5 of Style Esports Season 16. Tonight's best of 3 will take place between the rank 18 Grompy Grumps and rank 19 PSE Midnight. The Grumps last took the rift this past Sunday when they actually played a double header. They started off by taking an upset win over rank 11 Team Death Knights Blue in a 2-1 victory. BC Anthony, the mid laner, on AD champs, and Luckified on the Maokai jungle. Apparently, the recipe for success in that one. Unfortunately, success is not something that the Grumps were able to find in their second match that night. They were defeated 0-2 by rank 24 and sister team of their opponent tonight, PSE Nightfall. PSE Midnight, on the other hand, are also coming off a loss. They were quickly dispatched by rank 13 Mythic Esports just last night in back-to-back 24-minute games. Hoping to bounce back tonight, starting on the red side in game number 1. Bringing you the call, my name is Crewman44. I am joined by a truly talented Vega for tonight's action. How's your Thursday so far, TruTabaga?
Oh, thank you for the warm welcome, as always, Crewman. It's been a while since I've been here on Style, but as you said, Grumpy Grumps taking on PSE Midnight. Both of these teams hurting from losses in their last matches, and we are into that first pick ban phase. Grumpy Grumps diversifying their ban profile, right? You see Camille taken off the board, as well as Blitzcrank and Ari. Targeted at obviously top support and middle, taking away a lot of dynamic engage that PSE Midnight could draft for themselves. Midnight as well, a lot of focus towards that jungle. Rengar, Vi taken off the board, and Jhin also banned. Something I find rather surprising. I don't see a lot of people perceiving Jhin as something that's like, oh yes, this is super high priority, but if your draft is going to be a bit, on the squishier side, Jhin, fairly reasonable to ban away. Grumpy Grumps, though, rather surprising once again. First, picking Alawi. Very bold choice.
Yeah, definitely. Not something that you see every day, True. The B1 Alawi. It's not very commonly seen in these drafts, but that will be the case for the Grumps tonight. The Jhin ban is something that I know that the GG ADC did pull out in their win over Team Death Knights Blue in one of those games. So a little bit of a target ban there, but the Tristana Rakan now looking to be the response. Tristana, of course, is a very, very popular meta pick these days.
Yeah, you see it pop up in mid lane pretty significantly at the highest levels of competitive in the professional scene. But, you can still treat it as a flex pick. Tristana scales incredibly well into the late game. Very strong at busting down turrets. Grumpy Grumps really taking the timer out there, but the lock looks like it's Lissandra. Decent engage, and also Lissandra, I believe, 2 patches ago got her own buffs, Q having, I think, better AoE overall, as well as a more reasonable slow. So interesting choices, locking in solo lanes very early, but it's also going to play well into that Tristana, right? Tristana can't jump in on a Lissandra and 100-0 that champion very easily.
Very true. Very true. Clearly a response into the Tristana here, and we are going to see the Caitlyn locked in as well. So we do need to mention, True, we are in a new patch. Just dropped yesterday. Very slight Caitlyn buff on that patch, as we do see the Mordekaiser come in on R3 to answer the Alawi in that top lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And to talk about Caitlyn's, Riot's been buffing Caitlyn, very progressively past couple of patches, as we were talking about before we got the stream going here. And on this patch, Caitlyn's headshots stacks go from 7 autos until headshot to 6 autos. And even before that, in the previous patch, Caitlyn's headshot damage scaling was increased. So Grumpy Grumps locking in something that might be gaining more relevance, more steam as patches go on. Mordekaiser, I actually like as the lock-in for PSE Midnight, not because it's necessarily an amazing pick against Alawi. It's very much a game of chicken. Ults too early or uses all of her charges to create tentacles too fast. Mordekaiser can have an advantage in his death round, but Mordekaiser gets desperate and casts ult early, then Alawi can have her own field day with that. Otherwise, those other 2 bans coming in for PSE Midnight pinching support pool as well as the jungle pool further. No Kha'Zix, no Rengar, no rivals in the jungle. Grumpy Grumps, on the other hand, looks like they ban away the Jax, recognizing the possibility that Mordekaiser could go elsewhere, potentially in the jungle, as well as Volibear. So yeah, they're recognizing and respecting the flexibility of that possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely sort of an interesting call out in the bans there, as the Zeri will get locked in. So that is going to be the option for Chaos down there in the bot lane. But it definitely will be interesting to see. I do believe that Mockingbird, who is of course the starting top laner for PSE Midnight, does actually appear to be playing jungle tonight. So top lane champions being played in the jungle position, certainly something that we may have on the menu this evening. True.
Yeah, and when you think about it, Mordekaiser is still completely competent in. Whoa,
The Cassio.
locked in.
Yeah, so the Cassio, where is this going? So one of these champions, presumably True, is going into the jungle for the Grumpy Grumps. But I'm not sure
Oh,
who it
maybe there's
is.
well, maybe there's going to be some clarity here, but
Hmm.
does that make it a Lissandra support?
I guess that's probably what makes the most sense. I
Okay.
mean, I was really liking what you were saying earlier about the Lissandra into the Tristana, so I'm a little bit sad if that is actually going to be the case that we don't get that. But I mean,
I think that's the call. I think it's Lissandra support. Wow, there's only one person on the face of this planet that I know that has defended that pick. Um, uh,
someone we know.
no, but it is a college esports director.
Okay.
But that being said, okay, so we talked about Lissandra's effectiveness against Tristana, right? It creates this deterrent for Tristana. You can't jump in anymore. But in a similar vein,
Yeah.
that can still work against Zeri. Like the thing that Zeri hates the most in League of Legends is targeted CC. It's something that you don't have on a lot of champions. Lissandra is one of the champions that you can gain access to targeted CC, but you also have the wide AoE Ring of Frost, which means Zeri can't get, like, you have to be much more mindful about positioning. So perhaps Grompy Grumps, that is a tongue twister, have an idea. They have like this thought of like, okay, we can lock Zeri down with Lissandra. We can also prevent Tristana and Rakan and even Zeri from being so dynamic with their movement with a well-placed Cassiopeia Miasma. So they have options for themselves, but I've never seen Lissandra support be successful. It's really interesting to see, to say the least.
Really interesting, you say. True. I see. Well, we will have to keep a close eye, rather, on that bot lane to see how the pick does end up working out. Assuming that is, in fact, going to be the case, we do need to wait for confirmation to see where everything gets locked in to be able to, confirm that it is, in fact, the Lissandra in the support position.
Yeah, of course.
But, I do agree. I mean, given the champions that have been locked in, I do think that would make the most sense, right? So we shall see.
It's still kind of shocking too. But you know what? The other thing is, Crewman, it's game one, right?
True.
Like there's nothing to lose. There's everything to gain. If you feel confident on something that can be cheesy, why not? Like, why not lock in Lissandra support and really try to mess with your opponent's mental, especially coming off of a loss, right? For both teams. You see something cheesy like that in game number one, it's kind of annoying, especially if the loss is fresh on your mind.
Absolutely. And then if you do end up losing to the cheese pick as well, that can be a little bit of a mental backbreaker. I definitely hear you there. So it is an interesting choice, but there's the angle as well where if it does work out for the Grumps, then it's just another tool in their arsenal, right? It's another thing in their toolkit where potentially they could get some respect bans towards the Lissandra support at some point down the line. You never know. I don't know if that's necessarily the thought process here, but certainly potentially an upside if the pick does end up working out. But I'm a little bit curious. I do like your sort of assessment that the Lissandra can work well into very mobile champs. Not just the Tristana, but also the Zeri and the Rakan. But I'm a little bit less sold, to be honest, on the pairing with the Caitlyn. It can work. I guess I can see the theory behind it, where you can still set up for those snap traps if you go in for the Ring of Frost. But that would be a very committal play. Certainly more committal than something like a Lux or a Morgana throwing out a binding from
Yeah.
halfway down the lane.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the other thing that you would have to consider, and we do see Alessandra officially locked in, so it is the support for Ivano there, is that if you cast any of Lissandra's abilities, even for the purpose of harassing enemy laners, especially because as Lissandra you want to get that pass-through damage um, with that AoE now, you are opting yourself into pushing the wave. You already have Caitlyn, which means that are you going to be pushing the wave pretty naturally? Yes, but you don't want to over push, especially when you consider, okay, the enemy mid lane's a Tristana, we have a Rakan, a support, you factor in a Sejuani, you overextend Grumpy Grumps' bot lane, then you open yourself up to a lot of dangerous opportunities. And yes, Caitlyn, you have an escape through your E. Lissandra, you have an escape through your E, but what are you going to do either if you're baited into a fight? And those are not amazingly long range. When you consider that Tristana can jump in, or Rakan, or Sejuani can throw out ultimate, you can still get hit pretty hard if you are a pushing lane into those champions. But we haven't talked about is that Sejuani lock-in for the side of Midnight. Works pretty well with melee solo laners. Obviously, you see the Mordekaiser there, so you might see decent opportunities for lockdown, but you never want to take an extended 1v2 into an allow a post 6. Otherwise, the tentacles are just going to slam you to death.
Yeah, that definitely seems like it could be a little bit frightening for the Sejuani. Ganking Alawi, as a jungler myself, ganking Alawi is never really on my list of things to do in a game of League of Legends. So we'll see if the Sejuani is aligned with my own priorities in this game, or if she does feel like getting a lead in that top lane for PSE at Midnight is going to be one of the main keys to success. And we've talked a good amount about the Grumpy Grumps composition, unconventional to say the least. But on the other side here for PSE Midnight, I want to say that their composition is extremely standard, right?
Oh, yeah.
They've got strong engage, good front line, and the double AD carries, which we've been seeing for a few patches now at all kinds of different levels of play. It's just been sort of the default way to play League of Legends at the moment. So it seems like they're kind of coming in here with the bread and butter and saying, let's make a sandwich.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very strong way of looking at it. Unfortunately for them, the meat of their sandwich potentially is going to be, well, it's going to be unconventional to say the least. And it's a very, as you were saying, there's a very conventional draft on the side of PSE Midnight. And on the side of Grumpy Grumps, you have something that this is not intended to be like harsh criticism, but something you might expect to see more in solo queue than anywhere else.
Well, what are you thinking, True? Is it going to be the B1 Alawi and the Lissandra support surprise pick that takes the win in game number 1, or is it going to be PSE Midnight with the stock standard?
I really want to say the exciting picks are going to win. That being said, I probably believe the standard is just going to play it out a bit better. It's hard to practice a comp that's as creative as this, so my bias is definitely towards PSE Midnight.
Well, we're going to be able to see in just a minute, folks. We're about done with our spectator delay. We are going to go to a short break. These teams, very, very tight in the power rankings, should be a very fun best of 3 that we have on our hands tonight. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back as week 5 continues. Alrighty, everybody. Welcome to the Rift for our first game of the night. PSE Midnight on the red side, the Grumpy Grumps on the blue side for this first one. We are seeing Aftershock on that support. Lysandra, True, are there any other summoners or runes that you would like to point out to start things off?
Nothing too surprising. I will say PSE Chaos does have Cleanse, which I think is a very reasonable choice. When you consider what CC tools are on this side of Grompy Grumps, and the answer is fairly limited. Azachobe does have Stun on Viego, but otherwise, you're looking at Caitlyn Trap, Ivanil's Ring of Frost, or Ultimate when that's available, and then Luckified, only a source of hard CC there is the Petrifying Gaze, so Clarity will be really meaningful against those ultimates when they come through.
Cleanse.
But otherwise, things look pretty standard.
You said Clarity.
Oh, sorry, not Cleanse.
Don't think anybody's going to be wanting to take Clarity on Summoner's Rift.
It's been a while since you took Clarity in Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
But Cleanse, yes, thank you, Crewman. But yeah, everything else looks standard. Nothing too much.
We do have the first strike on the Alawi, I want to say, is maybe a little bit surprising.
I think it's maybe a little bit surprising, but also a bit reasonable. As Alawi, when you are into a melee matchup, you have the virtue of being able to start things off as far as traits go with Test of Spirit. Through Test of Spirit, you can just net yourself a decent little bit of gold there before enemies can really trade back, especially if they're melee champions like Mordekaiser. So it's reasonable. But at the same time, I can see Alawi completely choosing to take something like Conqueror, for instance. But, oh, it's a min-maxing.
Jumping in the mid lane as Cap is looking for a big play. Gets a reset on the jump right on top of the Snake Lady's little head. Luckified flashed away underneath the turret. It's going to be Cap all underneath. And he steps on the miasma. It's going to be the first blood over to the grumpiest Grump. Luckified in the mid lane. Pognometron, though, in trouble up here on the top side. The Obliterate will come down, but the Alawi will survive. And that is going to be the Grumps on the board.
Oh, Captain. Oh, man. You can almost hear the palm smacking the forehead as you cannot secure that kill. And so there's this maxim that my friends and I would talk about. Oh, wait, a little bit of action there in the river.
Yeah, junglers finding each other in a little bit of a duel up here in the top side river, hoping for the Scuttle Crab. But Captain off the reset, has teleported back in, but the flash follow. Aza is going to be able to get the kill onto the jungler. Going to be able to pick up the Sejuani body now. And this Tristana doesn't have flash, but does have another reset on the jump and manages to get over the wall. So Captain will survive that particular engagement. Knock up underneath the turret. That's going to be Avenel taking one turret shot. Too much else happening in the bot lane for now.
Yeah, very strong lead for Grompy Grumps this early on into the game. You got a kill on the jungler, as well as a kill on the mid laner. And Captain burned TP to get back into lane, so not too much loss there. But what I was going to say is now Ivana.
The Lysandra is actually in trouble. We'll get back to that in just a second, True. The Frostbite will come out. Lysandra, the Ring of Frost, is it enough? Has to flash away from the Extendo Beam. Will be able to... Oh, now it's Xeno. Oh, we don't have the Grand Entrance, though. We already used it trying to get onto the Lysandra, so we're going to be able to get back to your point, True.
Yeah, so the maxim is, and obviously you don't exactly see this with the way Tristan's currently played in mid lane. But if you are going to lock Tristana in as a champion very early, and you do want that early kill pressure, then take Ignite. Because 100% there, if Captain has Ignite over TP, you get the kill on the Cassio. The Cassio has a TP back into lane. And by then, you will have pushed the lane all the way into turret, and you can take your back pretty safely there as the Trist. So, small, decision, so to speak, not working out well. But here's a roam to mid.
Does get off the rocket jump, Captain does.
Yeah, you saw the thought
trying to trade here. We'll be the Tristana very low underneath this mid lane turret. Already using the TP, of course.
Yeah, you saw the thought with that lockdown from Ring of Frost. You have a opportunity for creative engage with the Glacial Claw. And yes, while that can be a very creative way into the lane to roam as a support, it's also not super duper consistent. Whoa, Captain jumping in.
Here we go. In we go. The Tristana sees no miasma and wants the smoke, and the minions will be able to finish off Luckified. It was a very, very close. Oh, in the top lane, it's also very close, but 12 IQ is going to have more than enough intelligence to take down the Alawi in this time around.
Yeah, you can see Pognometron opting in for early damage. Triple longsword in the inventory here, but gank in the bot lane.
Oh, Mockingbird in the bot lane. Oh, we've got a glacial path to safety. Never mind.
Yeah, and that works out really well there because Xeno's already walking away. Avonzel can just Glacial Claw out to safety, Glacial Path out to safety. This is what I was referring to, though. You don't want to extend super far and out of reach, but you do have vision on where the Tristana is. You know that Sejuani is in the bottom quadrant, but
we also have our own jungler in position for the counter gank. So the Sejuani is going to come over the wall. Chobe, when does he decide to make his move? He tries to get onto the Zeri, but it's going to be decided onto the Rakan instead. They will take that first kill. The knockup will land on a Mockingbird, and that is the Frozen Thrall. The Viego-Lissandra combo comes through in the bottom lane, and the Grumps are up 5-2 on the scoreboard.
And off the back of it there, you saw the Lissandra passive comboed with Ace in the Hole was almost enough to take out PSE Chaos, but not quite. So off of that, very strong counter gank from Chobe, you can see Grompy Grumps continue their very healthy lead this early in the game. You're looking at almost 3,000 gold. If you take a look at where that gold is situated, a lot of it in the bottom lane as well as in the jungle for the side of Grompy Grumps. So if Chobe can really take that advantage and transition it into those other lanes, it can be a very strong transition into the mid game.
Absolutely. And we do, I think we should mention again, I called it out very, very briefly sort of in the pregame, but Mockingbird, usually the top laner for this team, not necessarily a jungle main here. So, I mean, I don't think that was necessarily at play in that last fight we just watched. Like, I don't know if that was necessarily a factor, but I do think that is something to consider. If we do see Chobe building up a big lead in that jungle matchup, I do think that's maybe somewhat to be expected.
Yeah, and I think you can certainly say that perhaps not the second death, but definitely the first. When Mockingbird is 200, 300 HP and trying to take on Chobe, who's almost completely full. Chobe knows his damage. Mockingbird might not have quite that experience, quite that knowledge. Top lane,
Death Realm in the top lane. Pognometron in trouble, is even outnumbered after coming out. Oh, but a little bit early. Oh, I thought the tentacles were actually going to be enough there to turn that one around onto the Mordekaiser. I do believe the Mordekaiser R was cast first there as in the mid lane. Luckified is going to get jumped on. The Miasma is able to sidestep it into the turn. Oh, the moves! The captain makes it happen. He gets the combo, the buster shot into the tier 1, and he finds the solo kill.
Oh, that's gotta sting. You're on the very edge of turret range with that buster shot, and Captain looking kind of flashy with it, getting that done there. Able to get a second kill for himself. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised at how aggressive these two have been with one another. Not quite Captain, because you're playing Tristana, you do want to be aggressive as that champion, but Luckified, particularly, always being willing to fight as Cassio. Typically, I see a lot of Cassios, they kind of want to sit back, stack their tier up, or at the very least coordinate with their jungler to have a strong combo with Petrifying Gaze. Not Luckified, though. More than happy to take a 1v1.
I mean, remember, hang on. 12 IQ is going to get his heart not broken as he flashes away from that one. And the Mordekaiser will be totally fine. Didn't have the ultimate in that scenario, so that is why the flash did need to be expended. And what were we just talking about? Oh, the Tristana. Yeah, so remember, Luckified did pick the Cassio into the Tristana. So this is clearly a matchup that Luckified did want. That probably factors into the fact that they're willing to take these early trades. They feel like they can on this champion. But Captain was just a little bit too flashy there. Sort of predicted where the miasma was going to come down and preempted it with the rocket jump and just able to find the outplay.
Yeah, it worked out really, really well there for Captain. That being said, though, Grompy Grumps still at a reasonable lead. Close to where they've been, but it has diminished a little somewhat. Their solo lanes are,
1K in the jungle matchup.
Yeah, you can
That's a
say
big
it's
part
like a
of the
very
advantage.
slight advantage mid lane, but jungle matchup, you can really see Chobe coming away with a lead this far into the
1K in
game.
the 80 carry position as well because of Xenodrake's able to pick up all of those turret plates.
Yeah, you can see Xeno 2 kills almost with that first completed item. Maybe a Storm Razor. I'm not entirely sure what the item recipe is now that they keep switching up ADC itemization. But no, wait, that should be.
I think that is Storm Razor.
Yeah, I think that's Storm Razor.
I think it is.
But yeah, still very comfortable with that lead on Caitlyn. You're able to play around your range advantage into the Zeri Rakan. But you can see PSE Chaos has completed the static Shiv, so just additional wave clearing and push power into that Tristana and Lissandra. Not Tristana, Caitlyn and Lissandra, my bad. That being said, Xeno also completes a static Shiv, so
He
equalizing
does.
that pushing power.
He does indeed. Yeah, I wonder if that's something that we went for just because we wanted to match that wave clear from this area. Oh, Cognometron in trouble as Captain coming in, has the Buster Shot locked and loaded, ready to go. Might not even need it, as in the bot lane. Chobe is going to try to flash away. He's breaking some hearts. He's trying to break the hearts of the side of PSC, but it's not going to work out as he does go down in the top lane. The Mordekaiser will get taken down as Cognometron was in the 1v2. Wait, does allow? He just won the 1v2. Oh, no, he just didn't have that last tentacle. It wasn't ready quite yet, and Captain will be able to take the last hit onto the Alawi, but oh my goodness, Cognometron making him work for it up there.
Yeah, kills all across the rift. And Cognometron, I was talking about how it's like a game of chicken, who blinks first in that top lane matchup between the Alawi and the Mordekaiser. And you saw there that the moment that Cognometron gets engaged on by Captain and 12 IQ casts Death Realm because he doesn't want any additional tentacles to deal with.
Right.
But because of that, Cognometron able to just hold all the abilities, gets the ultimate off in the Death Realm, able to trade it back, almost goes, 1 for 2 in that situation. Unfortunately,
almost got them both in the 1v2. It was so close.
Oh,
Lugside's going to flash for some miasma. It's Avanel flashing in as well. They will be able to burst down the Rakan. And that is one reset for Chobe, but this Cassio is going to get traded back. Mockingbird barely alive, forced to limp away from this fight. Now it's 12 IQ. Just all of his lows. And in comes Captain from the side. This Tristana comes out of nowhere and just starts jumping all over this fight. She's not going to be able to make it happen, though, as the resets are too strong from Chobe. The Viego really popping off in that one. They get the 2v2 and over the wall. Chobe saw the Sejuani on the ward, and Mockingbird's going to end up giving over one more. There is some stuff happening in the top lane that is favorable for the Grumps, but overall, it's PSE Midnight in that bot side river fighting back in a big way.
Yeah, unfortunately for Midnight, they lose out on the Dragon. They, I believe, were able to get 1 kill onto Luckified, which is nice. The problem with it, though, is that now top lane, Cognometron, completely equalized out off of those turret plates. Really happy with how things went because they get the dragon stacking. They get more kills onto Caitlyn, who preserves the bounty. Viego, more kills, preserves the bounty. So they're getting gold onto the people that they want it to be, and now they're weaker or more vulnerable roles.
Oh, Death Realm once again in the top lane. 12 IQ looking for the play here. The Leap of Faith will come out just now from Cognometron. Will it be enough to obliterate? And that is going to be the kill. Alawi with the completed item there, but was not enough to win out in the 1v1. 12 IQ comes out ahead this time around. And true, yeah, I misspoke a little bit in my previous call. I got confused because of the Viego.
Turned into
who's on what team gets a little bit murky there. But in reality, as you so elegantly pointed out for us, that last sequence was really all Grumps all the way, and they are now in a very, very comfortable position. But we just saw afterwards, 12 IQ getting that solo kill in top lane is, maybe some stuff happening for Midnight, in fact.
Ooh, mid lane.
Oh, that's the double petrifying gaze. It's going to come out from Luckified by so much time and is able to turn this play around, gets the kill onto the Captain, and the Cassio mechanics coming out there.
Yeah, I mean, that worked out really, really well for Luckified, but before I get on that, I will say 12 IQ was able to gain that first turret as well as the objective bounty for the team. So, little bit of gold back into the pockets for the side of PSE Midnight. Chobe, though, not really worried about
aggressive
anything
right now. He's going between the turrets for this one.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to chase anybody down, but just claiming this jungle as his own.
Yeah, I mean, Chobe is very well aware of how strong he is, and the additional part of that, right, is that you see Ivanel moving with the jungler,
Yeah.
creating that threat. It's like, okay, well, you see the Viego there, but you can't really do anything to engage on the champion because there's Lissandra right there that will CC, and this Viego is very strong. Top lane, there is a little bit of a fight going on, though.
Pognamtron's going to go for the leap of faith. Death Realm not available quite yet for 12 IQ. Still kind of okay with taking this one. Might be a mistake because the tentacle goes down in the test of spirit. Will come out. Oh, the Death's Grasp, though. Almost gets Pognamtron into turret range. Not quite flashy for the upload. Oh, 12 IQ true to his name on that one. But here comes the captain. He is going to be able to get this kill onto the Pogtron, and we'll be able to trade that one for one.
Yeah, I mean, so once again, right? There's no Death Realm available for Mordekaiser. Can't toss Alawi into a space where she has no tentacles, which means 12 IQ actually can't take that fight and tries to get the kill. Oh wait, fight here in the river.
Chobe wants to contest for this Rift Herald. In goes Avanel, gonna find the Glacial Tomb onto the Tristana, but the follow-up damage is not there, and Captain is gonna be able to rocket jump away. The heist has been completed as Sejuani picked up the eye, but Chobe does Heartbreak over the wall and is able to find the mid laner. But Mockingbird did manage to spirit away that eyeball in the chaos.
Chobe's still looking.
He's looking. He still has another jump with the Heartbreaker, but can't find anybody else. Oh,
whoa.
A little bit of a misprediction on that gaze. Not petrifying really anybody, and 12 IQ now moving forward, but the Cassio kiting is going to make this really difficult for 12 IQ. Does he have enough? Oh, that was actually so close in the top lane, but it's going to be Luckify coming out on top. Avanel in trouble, but goes golden to buy a little bit more time. Look at these low health bars. Chove can smell the resets, and he is going to get the first one. The grand entrance, ooh, didn't quite get over the wall there, and now it's going to be Mockingbird dashing, assaulting to try and get towards safety. In comes the captain from the side. Avanel flashing away, but the flash follow for the captain will be able to get that first kill. Jump on reset is available for the Tristana, and it will be a 2-for-1 engagement in the mid lane. It's still the Grumps coming out on top. Captain trying his absolute damnedest to find something for the team.
I mean, it feels a lot like PSE are just constantly either forced into situations or they're just taking fights that they probably shouldn't be taking. I can understand wanting to kill Avanel, but they forgot that stopwatch is there. Luckified in trouble, though.
He's going to be able to flash away. Should have some miasma to put down as well in just a moment here, but it's not really going to work out as the CC is there. The Cassio cannot escape, and they're going to give the kill over to the Sejuani. It's a shutdown, in fact, that does go over to Mockingbird.
Yeah, I mean, good to get that kill. Luckified hadn't exited the area quite yet, but while that's good to get that kill, right? I'm absolutely certain that PSE, they're very aware that they're at a disadvantage right now.
That's the Glacial Tomb onto the Sejuani. Yeah, that's going to be the jungler taken down. Apeka over the wall. Does get the knock up onto the Caitlyn, who does have to flash away. Avanel underneath the turret. Captain's going to be able to get that kill as well. Another jump to try and get away from the Viego, but it's not going to work out. And it's going to be Xenodrix who actually picks up the last hit on that one. Knockup comes down trying to peel this Viego right now, who is getting chunked down pretty low. And now he's going to be put in the death realm. 12 IQ looking for the mace. A nice little sidestep from Chobe, but it's not going to be enough. And now Xenodrix, I don't think, is going to be able to get away from this one either. Knockup comes through, and a couple of big shutdowns going into the pockets of 12 IQ.
That is so much gold into the Mordekaiser's pocket.
Oh, but now he's walking into a Cassio, and she just needs one more Fang of the twin variety, and the poison, I think, is going to be enough as he's burning, ticking down, and that will be the kill. Pognamatron in the top lane. Oh my god, what's going on in the top lane right now? Alawi is taking the base. We haven't been up here in a while. There's been so much fighting, but Alawi is just casually winning the game by herself. Something that she does love to do, I suppose. Knockup will come out. Leap of Faith has already been utilized. Going in with the tentacles, looking for some more healing. Test of Spirit will land. Captain forced to jump away. This Alawi damage is just absolutely stupid. Doesn't have the flash, but doesn't need it. Absolutely fights him off. And what was a 1v4, I think? And he's still going. This Duskblade Cleaver Alawi just pumping out the damage and cannot be killed.
Not just that, you can see there is a Quicksilver sash.
Oh
my goodness.
What? Oh, Captain. He's going down with the ship on that one. They're finally going to be able to take down Pognamatron. But in the meantime, Infernal Soul Point True has been secured.
Yeah, I mean, like, this Alawi is absolutely catastrophic. Like the score line, it doesn't imply a lot of danger, right? Before all that, you're looking at 2-5 Alawi. Like, oh no, what's the problem here? But also, this is an Alawi that's been relatively left alone after 12 IQ spent so much time in mid lane getting those kills, which is really great for the Mordekaiser. But Alawi are really able to shove those turrets down. You can see Pognometron going for a full damage Alawi build.
That's almost certain. Oh, that was a Rakan on a ward, and we're going to Heartbreak over that wall into the Raptor Pit to try and find him. Not quite going to be the case just yet, as beautiful Petrifying Gaze from Luckify to create some space between himself and the Sejuani. And it will be the Grumps able to disengage from what was an outnumbered fight against them.
Yeah, and I think what Grumps have really done here with this composition that we talked about, this is a really creative composition. It's kind of harder to execute on, but not only is it harder to execute on, it's also harder to play against, because when do you have the opportunity to practice against, almost a borderline pure solo queue team composition when a team is playing like it's coordinated? So it's working out really well, and I think to a certain degree as well. Like Chobe is kind of slapping everybody with his wallet too, but Grumpy Grumps, they're on the Baron. It's melting.
It's gone. It's looking like a dead Baron on my screen. I don't think there was any vision in that pit for the side of PSE, and Mockingbird was in the area, had flash, but just didn't know when to go in. And that's going to be the T1 Baron secured by the Grompy Grumps. I mean, they do have a pretty monumental gold lead, so it does make sense that they were able to force that objective.
Yeah, I mean, almost every single neutral has gone the way of Grumpy Grumps. Whoa, Pognometron.
We got another Pogtron in 1v5 this time, and the whole breaker is not done yet. So I don't think the Alawi is going anywhere. That was a bunch of damage coming out at the end there onto the Rakan, but it's not going to be enough. And that is minus the Baron buff on our split-pushing top laner. Not necessarily optimal for the Grumps.
Certainly not, but you're also seeing the amount of attention and respect that PSE are giving this Alawi that's capable of just taking your structures over and over and over again, directing all of their attention towards that split-pushing threat. And they still have to deal with all these Barons up minions on all these other champions.
That's going to be a Glacial Tomb onto the Cassio. The knockup will come through, but the Petrifying Gaze in response, and is just burning down the Zeri. He gets a double kill. Does Luckify before he goes down, and in goes Chobe. Finds that Heartbreaker onto the Tristana, and now with the body of the mid laner. Oh, that looked a little bit funky. I think we needed to wait one more second on that Heartbreaker, but the Viego will be able to get back away from underneath the turret. And it's a 3-for-1 fight in the mid lane. Baron still on for 3. And it's going to be the Grumps continuing the siege.
Yeah, I mean, Grumps, once again, Chobe kind of slapping everyone with his wallet right there. Grumps look to be in a little bit of trouble, and all of a sudden when the Viego arrives, they're able to completely turn it around. One other, small fun note. Tell me about build diversity, talking about Captain and PSE Chaos. Almost identical inventories right there. Otherwise, though, Grumpy Grumps still on the march.
Be able to disengage for now. It's Pognometron right back where he left off in this bot lane. Looking to siege onto the tier 3. Leap of Faith will cut. That damage is so nasty, actually, as the Mordekaiser still dead. There are going to be some more tentacles here, I think. Can he dodge out on the tentacles?
I think he's fine.
Should be able to get to the fountain.
You saw that health bar evaporate, though.
Oh, yeah.
He went something from like 80 to 10. It's absolutely ludicrous the amount of damage that Pognometron's able to pump out when you have those tentacle slams stacked up on each other.
Yeah.
Chobe,
and he's going to have an Infernal Soul in like 35 seconds, so that's going to be something else that we're going to have to look out for, as the Glacial Tomb actually will come out onto the Viego, who does manage to Heartbreak over the wall towards safety. Chobe surviving for now. Shirelia's popped as the side of Midnight smell blood in the water, but they can't quite chase down any kills.
Yeah, I mean, they tried for a decent engage opportunity. Oh, Ivano in trouble.
Gonna have to self-ult here. Alawi is on the inhibitor right now. Luckified moving forward. Is gonna throw to Petrifying Gaze. Not gonna lock anybody up, and Avanel has managed to survive. Did a glacial path back towards safety in the end. Will barely get taken down by Mockingbird, but it's gonna be a wipe across the map as the Grumps just end the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was really, I feel like that's kind of indicative of how this game was going. PSE looking for opportunities, thinking that they've found a catch for themselves, and then all of a sudden, Viego shows up, gets one kill, starts getting reset after reset, and eventually they just can't equalize. They keep going for the same, like, similar play, and they can't translate it into anything. And you can kind of see that reflected as Zeno stayed safe the entire game. Chobe did die a couple of times, but in the end, it doesn't make all that much of a difference. And then you also have Pognometron, who I don't think was ever in a full-blown team fight in this game, just constantly pushing down those side lanes.
Yeah, the
Didn't even
Alawi
finish
was
boots.
very, very difficult to deal with. Excuse me, sorry. Pardon me. But we did definitely see the reason for the B1 priority on that pick, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no one expects the full AD Alawi.
Is Pognometron going to get your POG for game one here, True, or where would you look for that honor?
I mean, to me, it's either Chobe or Pognometron. I think that for the most part, everyone on Grumpy Grumps did pretty well. I think you could say it's contestable as to like how effective the Lissandra was on the Rift, but I think as a pick to throw off PSE, it worked out quite well. Pognometron is definitely a strong contender as far as player of the game. You can even see that reflected in that damage. So yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah, I mean, we did have great performances from Chobe and from Xenodrix and even Luckified. Honestly, everybody from the Grompy Grumps had a pretty phenomenal game number one here. My goodness, I got a real tickle in my throat. Something fierce right now, True. But I think now is a good time to go to that short break. While I figure out what's going on with myself, we're going to get set up for game number two. Grompy Grumps on the board first tonight, but we shall see if PSE Midnight can fight back. All right, everybody, welcome back to Style Esports. We are jumping in right now to our Game 2 draft. We have PSE Midnight electing to remain on the red side for this second game. True, what do you think about that choice?
I think it's interesting considering that the last game was just under 26 minutes long. I would say it's a decisive victory for game number 1 on the side of Grumpy Grumps. They didn't really ever get forced out of the driver's seat of that game, able to control the pace from effectively beginning to end. So I'm rather surprised by PSE Midnight's choice to remain on the red side.
Yeah,
That being
certainly.
said, maybe they feel like, okay, you guys had your cheese game. No more stuff in your bag of tricks. We can take you game 2 on the same side. But they are going to give respect to the pick. No Alawi for Grumpy Grumps in game number 2.
Yeah. Also, the Grumps are going to respect Mockingbird's Sejuani. Going to be banning away that one as well. So that does mean that we have the Blitzcrank and the Vibe both left open that were banned in the first round of bans in game number 1. But Jarvan is going to be the choice on B1 this time.
So Jarvan was relatively straightforward, almost always effective as far as its place as a champion. Also gives you that semi effect of targeted CC by creating that wall of terrain against or around your primary target. So I think it's a safe lock-in as far as Grumpy Grumps go. You can take your time with that draft C. PSE Midnight lock in. Kaisa is going to be the call, as well as Lee Sin. Looks like. I think it's interesting to see Kaisa when you just saw that Grumpy Grumps are willing to play a champion like Caitlyn. Caitlyn generally, I think, as a lot of people lean towards that, at least early against the Kaisa.
For sure.
Kind of bully and pressure her. PSE Midnight looking for engage. They swap from Lee Sin to Zach.
I mean, I will say the laning phase, clearly a difficulty for PSE Midnight in that last game. They weren't really able to stack up against what the Grumps had in terms of firepower, really in any of their lanes. I mean, we could say that 12 IQ maybe had a couple of moments on the Mordekaiser, but I mean, we saw how the game ended, and it was Pugnam Transalawi that was doing the ending. So definitely, I do think that if PSE Midnight's read is that they just cannot contest in the laning phase and they want to play all in for team fights and just try to bleed as little as possible, I don't necessarily hate that strategy. I mean, it certainly would be something that they a little bit different than what they would for in the last game, at least with the Tristana in the mid lane. Of course, they did try and play a little bit with priority there, but obviously not really working out in the end. The Yasuo going to be the option now. Wow, I wonder if that's Captain's Yasuo in the mid lane.
I mean, considering how Captain was playing, like really aggressively, always looking for those jump in, jump out, kind of plays, I can see the lock in for Yasuo, especially when you factor in Zac in the jungle. Really hard to anticipate a Zac's gank. So PSE may be working more towards that. Combo your team fight abilities, like don't bleed too much that you were just mentioning. But Grumpy Grumps, though, there's a lot to be said about their strength in the early to mid game, right? Caitlyn can lane bully. You have LeBlanc, who's a very strong roaming mid laner. Jarvan, who is a very strong early to mid jungler in terms of damage and completely competent in terms of his presence late. And PSE, okay, they said, all right, we're really not letting you guys have your cheese picks. Absolutely no Lissandra support this time around. That's when they're gonna get you. That's when it's the swap up to LeBlanc support.
Oh my god! Honestly, could see it happen at this point. Wouldn't even be too surprised. But we'll see. We'll see what the rest of these picks end up being. The Rel, I've honestly been really surprised. Sure, I feel like Kaisa and Rel, but especially Kaisa, have both kind of fallen off a cliff in terms of priority recently, and I'm not sure why. I mean, like, Kaisa got a little bit nerfed, and Rel had like a negligible nerf as well, where she steals slightly less armor and MR, I think, with the passive. But they both still seem really strong to me, and I feel like the priority has gone way down on both of those picks.
Yeah, I mean, you also generally want to see Kai'Sa paired with a tank, right? You have a lot of hard CC to help stack up the plasma. The swap is going to be to Seraphine, but I do agree with you. Kai'Sa with Rel, especially when you consider that there's a Yasuo on this team,
Yeah.
could potentially look really, really nice. But PSE
There's a
Midnight, they
huge
decide to
rally.
swap it up. They stick to Seraphine. Uh, Grumpy Grumps, I do like what their bans ended up being, right? You don't want.
Oh, let's play Who's the Support this time,
It's
True.
okay. Look, it's the other thing is you got to determine who's going to jungle here, right? The answer is Jarvan,
The answer is
right? No one
Jarvan,
else
I
here is
think,
going to jungle,
yeah.
which means who are your solo lanes? Well, you know Renekton plays well into Yasuo mid. Cho'Gath is a champion that can just sit in lane and constantly, do whatever the heck he wants, and just show up for the neutrals to chomp down on something. So I actually hate to say that, but I think it's LeBlanc support.
It very well could be. It very well could be. I feel like the Cho'Gath support is possibly where my money is going.
Yeah,
But it's really hard to call, I think.
I think that that's a very fair assessment.
Like it's probably not Renekton support.
It's shocking.
I'm gonna say that's not very likely. But also Renekton into Gwen sounds a little bit ouchy. I don't know.
Well,
Maybe you flex the LeBlanc top lane.
I was imagining Renekton into Yasuo mid.
That I think would be good for Renekton.
Cho'Gath, I don't think melees into Gwen are going to feel very good, if at all,
right,
in a lot of circumstances. So it might be a pick your poison kind of situation.
Yes, I agree.
We'll see here. I mean, with the lock-in from Pognometron, what it's going to be.
I mean, with the Renekton, like maybe you can try to pressure the Gwen early a little bit. If that is going to be the call for the
bottom line here is Grompy Grumps like to play around with their draft a little bit.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing any like super crazy wacky picks when I was doing my sort of cursory research on them before. Yeah. But I mean, maybe this is just a little bit of a specialty of the team, being able to pull out these weird picks and catch their opponents off guard.
Yeah, I mean, if you can consistently do that and be creative with your draft so that your opponents are never fully prepared for you, it's something that's a very strong tool to have available. The only thing is that that also means that you're practicing like a lot of non-standard stuff, which can make you feel a bit too specialized towards the cheesing idea there. But you see, right now Pognometron did lock in that Cho'Gath, which pushes towards that idea of LeBlanc support in my mind.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that does seem to be the direction in which we are heading. So, Caitlyn LeBlanc into Kai'Sa Seraphine. Thoughts?
So, with a champion like LeBlanc, right, there is this idea of you can have, get in, do a lot of burst damage, and then get out without, much fuss. Once again, you don't want to push the wave too much by jumping in. But like my experience seeing LeBlanc support in solo queue, and I think I've seen it counted on both my hands how many times I've seen it, is that it's either it will either completely throw off the bot lane, or it just ends up being something someone's trying to cheese with and they don't play it well at all. Considering how the previous game went, I think Avanzul did reasonably decent with having a very, very non-traditional support pick, but it also wasn't the reason why Grumpy Grumps secured their lead. So we'll see how the LeBlanc gets played. I don't think you'd be able to take Aftershock on her the same way you could go with Lysandra, though, so definitely going to be more vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that is certainly the case. And one other wrinkle I think that's worth mentioning here is that if we remember a few patches ago when the static Shiv meta rose to prominence, LeBlanc obviously being one of the pioneers of that meta in the mid lane, it was the Kai'Sa who kind of rose up as that big counter actually to the LeBlanc, right? You can, as long as you tag her with at least one auto attack, you can follow her back after she distorts away, after she gets off her trade, and you can actually try and assassinate the assassin, as it were, with the Kai'Sa. That might be a little bit dangerous to try and go for if it is a support LeBlanc. You have to kind of factor in the notion that this LeBlanc is going to have a little bit less gold. It's not really going to be a carry threat necessarily. So may not actually be worth the Kai'Sa going in with the Killer Instinct to try and find that kill. But I do think that is another angle here where LeBlanc might find herself on struggle streak in this lane a little bit.
Yeah, so we were talking about as we were in the draft for this game, right? That PSE Midnight's laning was not exactly their strong suit in the last game.
Mm-hmm.
This time around, and I'll say Pognometron, the early laning was not going amazing for that Alawi. It was a bit contentious, but pretty consistently at a very early, the Alawi was getting bullied, which you might expect with a Cho'Gath and Gwen. With the bot lane, Caitlyn LeBlanc, there is the opportunity for a lot of lockdown, a lot of damage. If you get your chains down with LeBlanc and Caitlyn can follow that up with a trap, yeah, that can be pretty devastating. What I'm most interested in, honestly, though, is to see how effective is Chobe going to be on this, very early to mid game oriented jungle pick. Jarvan is really good at influencing lanes early, and then kind of falls off a cliff after 25 minutes. And then mid lane as well. Luckified and Captain were at each other's throats constantly in game number 1, and I think between Renekton and Yasuo, you might see it either again in game number 2.
I think that certainly could be the case. True, my eyes are going to be pretty much glued to that mid lane, I think, in the early game. But there is certainly potential for things to happen at any corner of Summoner's Rift to start this one off, especially with the Jarvan in the jungle, Chobe with the B1 pick this time around, and the Gwen on the R5, another pick that we should be looking out for, especially against the triple melee top side. I think there is some potential for 12 IQ to get some work done in this game as well. But overall, True, before we go to break, what do you think about these drafts? Do you feel like the LeBlanc support pick has an angle here? Or do you feel like it's going to be once again, a little bit of a more standard angle from PSE Midnight that you actually expect to be able to win out this time around? Or do you think the difference in skill between the teams is going to be too consequential for the draft to really matter that much?
I like, after having the opportunity to see the first game here, I'm leaning more towards Grumpy Grumps, based on how they were able to execute. And going back to something that you mentioned, headed into the first game, the jungler for the side of PSE Midnight typically, plays top lane. Yeah, sure, you can off roll to jungle, but it really looked like Chobe had a lot of experience under his belt and was just very much ahead on pacing. So I think Grumpy Grumps can take game number 2 and seal this series away.
All right, we shall see if they can do it. The Grumps looking to pick up another one in the W column. PSE Midnight struggling recently. That's 3 games in a row here in the Style League that the side of PSE Midnight have lost in under 25 minutes. So hoping at least to last a little bit longer this time around. Don't go anywhere, guys. We will be right back with Game 2. Welcome back to Summoner's Rift, everybody, for Game 2 between the Grumpy Grumps and PSE Midnight. As the top laners starting this one off with a little bit of scrapping up here. Gwen getting a little bit of the better end of that one. But Pognometron still with plenty of room to move in this lane for now.
Yeah, I mean, so you can see Pognometron chose to take Hail of Blades, which is a decent choice on Cho'Gath, especially if you're willing to play more aggressively because you have a melee matchup. So you start Vorpal Spikes, and you end up maxing that because your Vorpal Spikes get stronger with your ult stacks. So what ends up happening is that you're able to trade really effectively against a lot of melee top laners, because not only do those give you more damage on hit, they also slow. So it's kind of hard for those melee top laners to chase you back to trade. Gwen, kind of an exception to that rule, because she can kind of dash, get those scissors down for a lot of damage to trade back. So Pognometron going to have to be careful in that early laning this game around. But that all remains to be seen. I do like the wording from the side. PSE Midnight, they are going to spot out Chobe heading straight buff to buff on this blue side. The only other thing that I think is really worth pointing out here is that you see that Ivano went for Electrocute, which I think is the right choice, but that also means that you're going to want to be really aggressive as this LeBlanc. You want to get the Electrocute procced as much as possible. You can see Luckified and Captain still fighting it out, still scrapping there.
Oh, yeah. They are really going at it in that mid lane. You do see a Rupture Lane in top lane as well, so there's that Hail of Blades action from the Cho'Gath coming out. And we should also mention that there was a ward from the side of the Grumps on the blue buff of the Zac, so both sides aware of the current position of the junglers, although now we do see Chobe with a level 3 moving into that top lane for a potential lane gank. I'm thinking that maybe the Hail of Blades on Pognometron makes sense, in addition to the reasons that you were just mentioning a minute ago, with the fact that, you know, your tankiness might not matter into a champion like Gwen, so, you know, that extra value you get with the resistance there, not really going to... Oh, Avenel is very, very low after that trade in the bot lane, and here comes Jarvan with that gank in top, of the first blood is going to go over to 12 IQ, and he picks up the double. Oh, I think we might be going to game 3, True.
Oh, man, that's a pretty catastrophic early dive there onto the Gwen, and that means that Gwen, 12 IQ, that's a lot of gold into the Gwen's pocket very early on. Able to dash, stay safe from EQ from Jarvan, from the Rupture, from Pognometron, ends up saving their life right there and gets those 2 quick kills early. Pognometron also not going to be TPing back into the lane, so 12 IQ very content and happy with how that has gone. Mid lane, though, Luckified getting a little bit aggressive.
Ooh. Yeah, Renekton not having the better end of the HP bar at the start of this one. And the Stretchy Strike's going to pull it back. And one more Q. It's actually going to be Mockingbird who flashes in for the unstable matter on the last hit for that one. A well-earned last hit for the Zac in position to gank there in the mid lane. 12 IQ sidestepping the Rupture. The Gwen needs to get the shove on this wave. Once she gets back to base, she is going to be so strong.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, to touch on a few other things that we've seen, not just how strong the Gwen is, but having those double buffs makes 12 IQ so much harder to fight against in this lane. You can see Pognometron walk back into lane, tried to get a little bit of a trade-off, and then instantly got half health. So really difficult to kind of equalize right now until some other sort of positive action happens for the side of Grumpy Grumps. But the other thing is, you can see Ivano, I was talking about how as LeBlanc here, you want to be playing a bit more aggressively, but you can see in the rune setup, right? Like, there looks to be limited to no bonus armor and absolutely 0 bonus MR in this lane. And when you consider that's Kaisa Seraphine, a lot of magic damage is going to go onto that LeBlanc, and that's why the LeBlanc is getting traded back so harsh.
Yeah, definitely. Avenel not finding too much success early on in the LeBlanc support as Pognometron. Look, just suffering those scissors so severely. A few more snips, and the Cho'Gath has to flash away from that one. This is Leeching Leer complete for the Gwen pre 5 minutes. And Pognometron, what are you doing walking back up?
Whoa,
He's
the
actually
minions!
looking at the Hail of Blades. Oh, the auto attacks, the shutdown. It goes back over to the
Flash
Pogtron. He turns it around back in the top side, and Captain's going to get ignited. Avanel with the flash igniting the block. Oh, it was the two champions that we thought were in so much trouble in this early game, True. And just now we saw them both turn it around.
Yeah, that's a really strong opportunity to equalize for this side of Grumpy Grumps, because like when you take a look at how catastrophically things were going initially, you lost kills very early on in top and mid. But the other thing that's working out really nicely for blue team is they're farming really well. Pognometron, 41 CS to 12 IQ's 33, and then in that mid lane they're luckified over double Captain's total CS at the moment. So even though they lost some early kills, their gold actually stayed relatively close.
They did. Yeah, that is very good that you point that out, I think. You know, it did feel like PSE Midnight had a fantastic start to that early game, but they are actually down a little bit in gold right now. I mean, we did see those 2 kills just go over now as well to really even things out a little bit, but still. Oh, the knockup's going to land in the bot lane. Chobe finds it, and that is going to force the flash off of Chaos. And that is not the position you want to be. Already a tough lane into the Caitlyn LeBlanc, and it just got a little bit tougher.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I do want to draw our attention to one thing here. Kind of saw Pognometron do it last game, doing it again this time. This game, itemizing for full damage, right? You can see that lost chapter as well as a dark seal on the Cho'Gath. Like, if that's what he's opting in for, there's going to be a massive amount of burst available to the Cho headed into, the mid to late game. Full glass cannon, really cool.
Not going to watch out for these needles. Is going to find the rupture, but 12 IQ, I think, should be able to find this one. One more dash forward. The snips will be there. And 12 IQ picks up number 3 of the game. The Gwen still cannot be trifled with in this top lane, and Pognometron just stepped up a little bit too far there with the wave coming in.
Yeah, I mean, rather sadly and frustratingly for Pognometron, I think. Yes, you have a lot of access to damage as full AP Cho'Gath, but also when you consider that you do get an indicator on when your ult is going to execute, 12 IQ is sitting at almost double the necessary health for Pognometron to look for something. So yeah, he just has to walk it out, try to stay alive. Unfortunately for him, 12 IQ does have Ghost, able to just run him down. Things staying relatively even in that top lane, especially with the Gwen getting more farm into the pocket. That being said, this is looking like a much more contentious game than game number 1, which is great for PSE.
Yeah, we are looking like we have a much closer game on our hands this time around. We are, only 8 minutes in, so pretty early days still. We did see just a moment ago PSE Midnight think about starting up that dragon, but they did decide against it. The Herald alive now as well. Pognometron, this is so greedy. Walking up for that plate. We'll be able to get it, though.
I think that's just what Pognometron likes to do as a player, though. Like comparing behaviors from this game into now, or from previous game into now. Oh,
okay, knock up onto Captain. In comes the Renekton, and the Cataclysm is going to come down as well. Captain is going to dash away, but there's a LeBlanc waiting for the wind wall is going to block the chains. The ignite is it going to be enough? One more tick. Yeah, there it is. Avanel. That is twice in a row. Now both deaths on Captain were due to the ignite of Avanel.
Yeah, it's effectively an ignite auto that does Captain in both times, as you said, and that's why I said that's really frustrating if you're the Yasuo there, because you're probably thinking LeBlanc didn't even do anything LeBlanc-like. She just showed up and auto-ignited
took the ignite summoner spell and has an auto attack. Yeah, that's all she needed. Doesn't matter what support you're playing in that instance.
Yeah.
Just need a ranged auto attack.
And it's just so punishing for Captain, right? Because while things are, relatively equalized in that top side between the gold from or
Pogtron.
CS.
Oh,
Okay.
the slingshot is going to come through. Not quite going to find the knockup, though. Needlework has been utilized as well. Pognomtron. Oh, the snips! Underneath the turret goes the Gwen, but 12 IQ is going to take an extra shot because of the slow. And Shobei picks up that kill. Mockingbird waiting on another slingshot. Going to flash in for that one. Finds the stretchy strike and the knockup under the Cho'Gath. And Mockingbird does manage to get one back. And now the Let's Bounce will come out. But he is going to go into the passive. And I don't know if anybody's going to save him. 12 IQ, no teleport, and in goes the Kaisa. Chaos gonna be able to find that kill onto Xenodrix. LeBlanc still just level 5. All of that roaming has resulted in an XP deficit for the support, and now it's gonna be Captain who goes for the last breath. He gets the shield. He tries to dash away through the minions, but that's a big crocodile. He's very, very scary. The dash back, almost able to cheekily get through those minions back towards the turret, but Luckified will be able to get that kill in the end. First of the game for the Renekton. 6-6. On the scoreboard.
This is a stifling matchup if you're Yasuo, right? This is not to disparage Captain in any way, shape, or form. It is hard for Yasuo to exist in lane against Renekton because frequently Yasuo wants to make use of the minions to get in, get his damage, get out. That's exactly what Renekton wants to do, and he does it better.
Yeah,
he's very good at punishing the Yasuo. So Luckified very happy with how things are going. Top lane. Pognometron did end up dying, but it worked out quite well once again for Cho'Gath, who doing a pretty decent job thus far in the game. Once again, not as significantly strong a lead in from game number 1, but it looks like Pognometron really angling for that first tower isn't quite getting it though.
Very, very close. Stiff Breeze will take that one down. But the Cho'Gath is leveled down, and he is deep in enemy territory right now. Gwen is going to have the needlework back up also very, very soon. See if 12 IQ wants to go for this one. We'll let the Cho'Gath escape, actually. And back to the tower goes Pogtron. Oh, can't stick around for the auto attack, though. He will be able to stay close enough to get the local gold. And in comes the teleport now from Luckified. But that does mean we're ceding control over this bot side river. And Cho'Gath is going to get pulled back in by the Circuit Strikes. He's going to go in with the EQ. And now a teleport down here from Pognometron to respond to the dragon play. Mockingbird now on the retreat, looking for another slingshot. Gets denied by the Rupture Predict from Pogtron. In comes Cho'Gath now, has Cataclysm, can look for this one onto Alpaca Bull, gonna find Chaos instead. Goes straight onto the Kaisa, and it's gonna be Xeno who picks up that kill. Underneath the turret even goes Cho'Gath, maybe a little bit deep there, but they will manage to get both bot laners and should be able to still get the dragon as well. May have to delay that, actually.
Yeah, they have to delay it. Feast is not available on Pognometron. You see, that's why you see him running towards that mid lane to get that shoved in.
Okay.
Luckified's still here in the top lane. 12 IQ in trouble.
Yeah, the Gwen is looking like she is in a whole bunch of trouble. You're quite right. The stun will come out, and one more auto attack will seal the deal. And these map movements in the last couple of minutes from the Grumpy Grumps have been kind of nutty.
You know what? I just realized I've been getting that mixed up. I was saying the Grumpy Grumps. It's Grumpy Grumps. But either way,
confusing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you know what? That's fair. I did say it's a bit of a tongue twister earlier, so there it is. But either way, right? We were talking about how things were closer this game, how the game was much more contentious. Solo lane seemed to be going decently, at least top lane was for PSE, and now it's just all broken wide open. Pognometron able to keep even with the gold, but also the mid game Renekton. Luckified kind of has free reign to do whatever they dang well please at this point. No one can really answer versus the Renekton, but Xeno's kind of in trouble. That's the Yasuo versus a Caitlyn.
Oh yeah, we do have Cho'Gath here though to reinforce. In comes the Zac, both junglers present. That's gonna be the knock up onto the Caitlyn. In goes the Yasuo, and Captain will be able to get that kill. As we are pivoting towards the mid lane now for some reason. Spectator camera is trolling us a little bit, but it looks like the fight in bot lane will also disperse.
I think if you are GG, that's how I'll get around it.
Nice.
You kind of have to be cognizant of Gwen starting to equalize the CS disadvantage, right? Luckified spent a lot of time in the mid lane. Yes, they do get that first Drake, but it's 15 minutes into the game, right? Drake isn't going to really open up as a win condition, at least for another 2 Drakes, and that's assuming they get taken on spawn. So right now, if you're PSE, you kind of want things to extend out as long as
Oh,
possible.
that damage Chaos getting ignited now, but he is the killer instinct, and there's that Kaisa counterpick. Is going to take down the LeBlanc. In goes Lunkified, though.
Lord.
Has the slice, has the dice, has the call. Is going to be able to take down the enemy marksman. Flashing in for the stun, and he has another Cull. The Meek and the Meek have indeed been culled as PSE Midnight get wiped off the rift in mid lane, and the gold lead is actualized at 4,000 and counting.
Yeah, well, Crewman, new game, same story, right? PSE, it looks like they get something, right? They get the catch onto Ivano, and then someone shows up and just completely ends the fight. This time around, it's Luckified, just showing up on this Renekton, talking about how he has free reign to do anything downward pleases with just a Gore Drinker in the inventory. Completely smashes them away. Unfortunately, Mockingbird doesn't have pass available. Captain in trouble now, though.
Off the base. The flag and drag is a little bit of not gonna find the mark there, but it's probably not gonna matter. The last breath will come out. Captain trying to trade back onto the Jarvan here. Chobe is getting pretty low. Gonna go for the Cataclysm Flash. This Yasuo is kind of making him look a little bit silly right now. Will be able to Luckified will be able to dodge away on that second tornado, but the Renekton now in trouble is going to get cut down. It's going to be snipped apart by the Gwen, and now it's Pognometron who's outnumbered up in this top river. The Seraphine is extremely low, and the Kaisa has been cleaned up by the LeBlanc on the back end of this one. Mockingbird forced to slingshot out of the Baron pit, and it looks like Herald will go over. Feast available for Pogtron, should be able to lock this one down, but I mean, PSE Midnight are still fighting back a little bit. They found a couple of kills, turned around that bot lane skirmish quite effectively, and here comes the Zac. Gonna look for this one, actually steals it away. Mockingbird, the autofill jungler, gets the objective, and they're gonna be able to get a couple more kills as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing was there that Pognometron, you do have Feast available, ended up casting it, I think, hoping that Mockingbird would blink first, smite early. But in that sort of situation, right, as Zac, yeah, sure, your passive is already back up, so you're not worried about dying. The only thing you're concerned about is landing the smite. And I believe now, yeah, smite currently at 900 damage, so the Cho'Gath Feast will definitely outdamage it, but there's a little bit of, like, a cast delay time for the animation on Feast, so perhaps Pognometron didn't fully account for that. But as you were saying, PSE, equalizing somewhat. They got 2 kills onto Captain, who now has that Bork completed in the inventory. So, gonna feel a lot more confident on this Yasuo. There's also a lot of shutdown golds into the Yasuo's inventory, so things are substantially more stable for PSE Midnight as they compared to where they were just a couple of minutes ago. Still have to be careful against this Renekton, though.
Yeah, we will find the knock-up, and that will stifle the Dominus. As like if I did commit the ultimate there. But yeah, Captain seems like we're maybe looking at the 03 power spike for Yasuo. A little bit earlier than you usually see it.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line for Yasuo is you gotta get some deaths under your belt, right? You bait the enemy team into a false sense of security.
We are doing a little bit of snipping, a little bit of needlework up here. Renekton has teleported into the play. Zac also in the area. You can go into the slingshot. Not going to be finding any knockups just yet, but the stretchy strikes will be able to do so. Luckified barely able to dash away from the scissors. Chaos caught in the rotation. The Encore will come out, will clip the Cho'Gath, but I don't know if that's really the priority target, as in comes the cavalry right into the exposed flank of PSE Midnight. It is going to be Yasuo here, the captain, going to try and turn this play around, but I don't think he's going to be able to find too much here. He goes in for a 2-man last breath, but he did not find the carries, and it's going to be a double kill over to Cho'Gath to complete the wipe, the 5-for-0 Grumpy Grumps in the top lane.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, PSE, they thought that was their fight to take. They knew that Pognometron was still in the area. They just saw Renekton TP. It's like, look, they made a misplay. We can punish this super hard. They didn't anticipate that Chaos would get caught out in the jungle. They weren't sure about where the other members of GG were. The Kaisa gets completely eliminated before even having the opportunity to join the fight. And at that point, the entirety of PSE, with the exception of Captain, had been committed to the fight, trying to trade some kills back, don't get anything. By the time Captain gets that TP in, stuck in a 1v5 situation, can't get a sliver of hope for his team. And now, GG, they're out to a almost 7k gold lead. They're very confident compared to where they were even 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, they're really feeling good with this game state now. And I think, True, it really kind of comes back to the laning that we were talking about before. I mean, the reason that the side of Grumps were able to play so aggressively in the enemy jungle like that is the flash forward to keep the chains locked. Avenel looking for the CC there. Won't matter in the end, as Zach also did have the flash to get away. Trade of flashes there between support and jungle, but the reason that the Grompy Grumps were able to play so deep there is because they had taken all of these turrets already, right? And when we look on the other side for PSE Midnight, they've only been able to secure that bot tier 1. Very, very different story here for the Grumps.
Yeah, and it's just that freedom of movement that taking away those turrets provides your team. You can path into the enemy jungle with, relatively high degrees of safety. Looks like the PSE
surely will get the charge.
Well, it doesn't take the mid lane turret, but Captain is able to take the top lane outer, so
yeah,
a little bit of a gold bounty into their pockets as a team, but it's hard for PSE to play back from where they are. Right now, it's kind of like stabilized by getting the map opened up with those turrets. Obviously, the big one is the tier 1 mid turret. Like, it's very difficult to push forward for vision if that's still up.
Working some needles again in this bot lane. Yeah, the Cho'Gath is in a whole lot of trouble here. The snips will come out and the shutdown will go over. And that's what happens when Cho'Gath can't land his Q. That was a very long lane as well. Gwen had a lot of room to work with there. And we've seen that a few times from Pogtron in this game. Just kind of extended very far in the lane and getting exposed to this Gwen with Ghost. It was more than capable of taking down, especially a full damage Cho'Gath.
Yeah, and like that being said, though, Pognometron, although you don't want to die, like considering how we've been seeing them play from game number 1 into here in game number 2, they're comfortable with that happening. They're constantly going to be in a side lane. They have TP available, so if there's going to be a fight around a neutral, they have it ready. And you can see the entirety of Grompy Grumps.
Oh my god, we're flashing forward. Luckify gets the dice through 2 members. The Let's Bounce will come out to try and disengage in the Renekton. Oh, look at that heal on Luckified. That was disgusting. The Cataclysm will come down as well onto the Seraphine. Chaos Killer Instinct in. Gonna look for the jungler here. We'll be able to trade back onto Chobe. But now Chaos is all out of mobility, and that's going to be the 3-for-1 team fight. Once again, the Grumpy Grumps on top.
I'm actually semi-surprised that Grumpy Grumps are not running straight for Baron because you have Feast available. Like it's a little bit of a Pyrrhic kill for PSE Chaos to kill Chobe because, yeah, sure, you took the smite away, but Feast is still up. It still does over 1,000 damage. You just have to account for the animation cast. So yeah,
Zach is live,
very
and
easy start.
We have seen Pogtron miss these executes this game already. In comes 12 IQ with the needles, trying to push them off of this Baron. Will be able to do so. Gets a lot of damage down onto all of these GG members.
Yeah, with Zach being up, I think that's the right choice, right? Just get out of there, make sure that you don't take a bad fight.
Oh, he's got ruptured. Oh, he got ruptured, and then he got nommed, as you so elegantly put, True.
That Feast, with that full AP build, right, does just under 900 true damage. Like, the moment the Rupture lands, because Rupture also itself has a pretty high AP ratio. If I remember correctly, it's 100% AP ratio. So the Rupture already hurts. The Feast, it's just to finalize the kill.
Yeah, I mean, the Feast is the "you're dead now" button. And that is what happens. As the chain will land, but we cannot get the CC as the Encore did come out and oh no, that wasn't the Encore. That was just a beat drop. So Seraphine still with the ultimate. As pushing the Grumps off the Baron before was a pretty big win for PSE Midnight, but are they going to be able to do it again? Because the vision is getting cleared out right now. Mockingbird getting set up for a play right now onto Pognometron to try and burst down the top laner, who doesn't have very much armor, but he does have a flash. and he's going to be able to get over that wall. The Rupture will come out onto the Yasuo as well for the disengage. Now, Luckified will he's slicing, he's dicing, he's trying to get away from this one, but 12 IQ is going to have the Ghost back up in just a moment. Might not even need it, as Luckified is just absolutely getting snipped apart down here. Tries to go for the stun. Oh, and the snips there. Not quite in range. Oh, Luckified. That's some aggressive movement. He wanted to get in position for another slice and dice combo, and he's still running. He's still... Looks like the Renekton actually is out of there. And on the top side, the Siege beginning onto the tier 3. Surprised nobody went down in that sequence. Oh, but Luckified is going to look for this one now. Ghost is available for 12 IQ, but no ultimate this time around. The snips, though, are more than enough. 12 IQ will be able to get that kill onto Luckified, who is just getting a little bit too big for his claws, or his teeth, or whatever it is crocodiles have.
A bit of both. Yeah, he definitely has claws and he has teeth. But I think it's really reasonable that Luckified went for it. It was very, very close. That being said, right, 12 IQ is tied for the highest level in this game, right? Pognometron's the only other person. And while they're both, like, high AP top laners, it's a bit different when you're dealing with Gwen versus the full AP Cho'Gath. And you kind of saw that compared to top lane versus bottom lane. Cho'Gath's going to kind of melt. Gwen, on the other hand, it's very hard to deal with her. That being said, I like the play from the side of GG. They just send Pognometron and say, okay, you know what, you have Feast available, just go ahead, hit the Dragon, the rest of us are going to go towards the Baron.
But it remains to be seen how well this is actually going to work out, as the Feast does come down, so we have secured Ocean Soul Point. Luckified should be able to slice out of the back of this Dragon, but he's actually going to elect to slice in. Does find a big call, but it is mitigated by the exhaust, and that will be the double kill over to Chaos, but both neutrals have been secured by the Grumps. How's that trade work out?
I would say that's what they wanted. You know, it's obviously not ideal to lose both of your solo laners in that play. Captain has also been
Captain's going to find the last breath onto the LeBlanc. Avenel is going to distort away. Nice flash from the LeBlanc to get away from the knockup from the Q3, and now Captain's running out of HP. Chobe just beats him down with the Lance. That is going to be another kill over. But look at this push in the mid lane. PSE Midnight actually doing quite a bit of work right now in both mid and bottom lane. Chobe is going to go in here. Has Cataclysm, but he's going to get stunned up by the Encore. He's going to get burst down. And now it's Xenodrix in trouble. Gale forcing in to dodge away from the Seraphine. He flashes the Q as well. He flashes the high note, and the ace in the hole will get the double kill. Those mechanics there from Xenodrix on the Caitlyn were immaculate.
Xeno netting and then Gale forcing forward so much damage onto Chaos, able to stabilize, able to make sure that they don't lose out on even more. The Caitlyn, you know, a lot of people criticize Caitlyn as being weak right now. Like, I would say that a lot of this is Xeno playing really well for themselves beyond the Caitlyn buffs. Because honestly, Chaos was very terrifying in that situation. It really looked like PSE had found a fight that they were looking for. They found the opportunities they were looking for. But I also got to compliment Avenel, distorting back to save their life, their own life versus the Yasuo versus Captain. Very well done.
Hold on a second, just again, as Timber, big old Void Monster, is going to get cut down once again in the top lane here. I guess I didn't really need to interrupt your point. He was pretty dead.
And it's once again, like, consequence of playing Glass Cannon Cho'Gath. Do you do damage? Yes, absolutely. It's a terrifying amount of damage when you land it. If you try to take an extended fight against anyone who's capable of shredding you, you will melt and evaporate like you are made of, like, ice cream.
Yeah, there's a few champions that are pretty good at doing that on the side of PSE Midnight this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Not like you have the Gwen, you have the Yasuo who has Bork, you have the Kaisa as well. Yeah. So it works out quite well for them. And you can see PSE, you know, they are really fighting hard this game, right? This game
ahead in turrets now, PSE Midnight is, after being so far behind in that department earlier on.
Yeah, I mean, like, they've pushed beyond this game. This is the longest game that they've had in, you know, 3-4 games now. So feels good, man. They're not out of the woods yet, right? They're still at a deficit, but you're also starting to see Grumpy Grumps' composition starts
Oh,
scaling
Zeno
down.
potentially in trouble, but the reinforcements were here. They were waiting in the wings, and they did fly out at exactly the right moment. As soon as Mockingbird went in, Seraphine just got popped. Now the Rupture Predict, oh, not quite there this time around. Mockingbird will be able to slingshot into the Dragon Pit, but the base is starting to get cut down, is starting to get obliterated by the Grompy Grumps, as Yasuo and Gwen were both off in the side lane, trying to continue doing some split work, but and looks like the Yasuo will be able to get back to base, but we're on to the Nexus turrets. True, you might have Giga cursed PSE Midnight there as like, oh yeah, they're holding on for so long.
They're
will
okay.
come in with the last breath, and Xenodrix is going to get taken down. The knock up onto Chobe as well, and it will be in fact PSE Midnight surviving in this game for now, as the Feast will not get the execution. And now the teleport onto the last Bloblet is going to be Mockingbird survives, and it's going to be Captain now against the Cho'Gath. Pognometron only living member right now, and he's not going to be living for too much longer. The ace will be completed by PSE Midnight, as it looked really scary for a second there, like the game might just end. But it's the rest of the team, the bot lane and Mockingbird, able to hold strong in the base, and Captain teleporting back in to finish out that play.
Yeah, I mean, it looked terrifying for PSE, right? You saw that off that one kill in the mid lane, they went straight for the throat. They tried to end the game. They got one Nexus turret for their troubles in addition to all that, but they bit off more than they could chew.
Yeah.
Captain was able to make it back into base, able to find a fight, get all the kills in the base, and now for this Dragon Soul, it looks like that the entirety of Grumpy Grumps, they are going to be alive, but Pognometron not going to be around for the Dragon, as it spawns right when his timer comes up.
Oh,
There's
Chobe.
no TP available for the show.
Flag and drag away. Luckfied can go in looking for the stun. Not quite able to find it, as it will be at 12 IQ. Also able to dash back towards safety. And the Ocean Soul will be denied. That is going to be picked up by PSE Midnight. They've got 3 items on all of their carries. And I'm starting to wonder a little bit, True, like maybe the Grompy Grumps are a little bit outscaled at this point.
Yeah, that's actually what I was getting towards right before that fight in mid lane had broken out, right? The Yasuo is scaling, the Kai'Sa is scaling, the Gwen. Well, honestly, 12 IQ's Gwen has kind of been terrifying the entire game ever since that dive in the top lane. But yeah, right? You have a Glass Cannon Cho'Gath, you have a J4, a Bruiser Renekton, and a LeBlanc support. So Cinderella timer, you know, is in that 25 to 30 minute period. You're kind of like dinging the bell. You're like, guys, we're in trouble. Like, we haven't entered the game yet. The enemy team has this hyper tank Zac.
But if we can keep finding picks like this, then it might just all work out. As the Let's Bounce and the Slingshot, I think both. Oh, he has the Slingshot, actually. He's trying to get back towards safety. The ace in the hole is going to be blocked, and it's going to be Luckfied charging into the entirety of PSE Midnight, and they're going to be able to turn this one around. The Needles, the Encore. Oh, shutdown does go back over as the Captain gets taken down. But it's going to be all of the Grumpy Grumps that get eliminated in this skirmish. I guess Pognometron is still alive off on the side there, but a huge team fight win for PSE Midnight this time around, and they're onto the Baron.
Yeah, I mean, they only lost the Yasuo for their troubles, and it looked... honestly, now the shoe's on the other foot, right? Grumpy Grumps, they took a fight where they thought, okay, we have the opportunity, we can get this kill, then turn towards the Baron. But vitally, Mockingbird stays alive. You don't have the Cho'Gath for one-shot potential.
Well, yeah, you can,
might have it here.
You can do that. You know, that's fine.
But yeah, this is how I would really expect fights to be going at this point, because pretty much the entirety of Grumpy Grumps has just scaled down. Yes, they can certainly eliminate like targets that are completely caught out, but they cannot fight 5v5.
I think he's dead again. He's gonna land another Rupture. Doesn't matter. I don't think it matters.
I don't think
he's gonna get snipped. Yeah. That is a level 18 Gwen with 4 items.
Yeah.
And I don't care how many Ruptures you land, it's just not going to work out for you, Mr. Cho'Gath.
I mean, Pognometron's job at this point, even if he's trying to split push, it's really hard to execute, right? Because
I mean, just the rune choice as well. Go back to that also.
Yeah, your own base has been cracked open. There's no real towers to give you safety. There's not a lot of vision coverage. Oh, they're
Oh,
trying for
okay.
chaos,
That's
though.
no chaos is down. Yonkor will come out onto 2, but not in time to save the AD carry. In comes the Zac now. Mockingbird bouncing around a little bit, but not necessarily knocking anyone up with that. And the Dragon is not alive yet. So silver lining there for PSE Midnight. They're not going to be losing any objectives right now while their Kaisa is in the death chamber. But the Grumps, we've seen them continuously throughout this game finding these picks and being very opportunistic with where they're looking on the map.
Yeah, and getting the kill onto the Kaisa there is necessary, but it's not sufficient. Because now, PSE, they really are what's going to feel like a triple carry composition, right? You have Kaisa, you have Gwen, you have Yasuo. And I would say that if Grompy Grumps want to have a prayer to win the game, and if they want to have a prayer winning a team fight, somehow Yasuo, Kaisa, like a combination of the three, at least 2 of them need to die, and your team needs to stay healthy. So the way to do that, I'd assume, would have to be essentially like a J4 combo into Cho'Gath's Rupture, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
Goodbye, Mr. Cho'Gath. You can't be pushing. You can't be split pushing deep down the lanes like this as the Cho'Gath. I mean, you're not getting anything here. I mean, the objective isn't even alive yet, so you're not buying for your team to take the objective. You're just walking down the lane and dying.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that if you are GG at this point, you have to recognize, hey, we see where their jungler, where their mid laner are. We should be establishing vision in the Dragon Pit right now. And they haven't done that. They decided to get their backs in. They didn't actually sweep out the pit. So, yeah, there's still a control ward inside for the side of PSE, and they're still very comfortable.
To be fair,
you're also down your top laner, too.
Yeah, the ward was in that back brush. You know, it is the Ocean Rift, so can be a little bit tricky to spot that one. You know, eventually the Grumps do find it, but it's not really going to matter too much. I mean, Pogtron does have the teleport for when he respawns. 12 IQ pretty deep now. The Gwen they're trying to get on top of. The Dragon is going to get taken down. Look at this from Captain, does a whole bunch of damage. We are going to find the knockup onto the Yasuo, but he finds his own knockup in return. And the Encore comes out, and that's going to be the Caitlyn down. The one carry on the side of the Grumpy Grumps has been eliminated. Pogtron will be able to get one back onto Chaos, but Mockingbird can come in here, going to find the knockup, going to find the CC, and Pognometron is not going to get out of this one. Luckified is running for the hills on the other side of the rift, trying to escape. Looks like the Renekton will be able to do so. The Cho'Gath will not be so lucky. It's only a matter of time before they take him down. He's already used the feast, so... Oh, no, actually, he did still have it, but he's not going to be able to execute anybody. And this will be, I believe, the end of the game, True. I mean, Luckified is here to try and put together a last-ditch defense, but there's nothing that a Renekton alone can do at 37 minutes. The Nexus will fall, and PSE Midnight picking up a big win here in Week 5.
Yeah, I mean, it took him a long time, right? This was a 37, almost a 38-minute game, but they're able to come away with that W. It was touch and go for them for a little bit, but the scaling worked out for them. So, honestly, and that's what they needed to do, right? Like, they kind of semi-threw the early lead that they had, but, like, I don't really think there was a point at which 12 IQ wasn't terrifying for the entirety of Grumpy Grumps in this game. The Gwen just completely dominated pretty much everything and was so strong that it kind of extended out the game timer. And I'm not even going to say that GG didn't play towards their win condition, because they knew that they had to go for the throat and they just weren't able to execute on it, which is really unfortunate for them. But, you know, that's great for PSE because it gave them the time to stall out, gave them time to scale up, and they definitely pulled it off.
Yeah, and honestly, Pogtron felt like they were kind of playing this game like they were still playing Alawi, honestly, at parts, right? I mean, we saw that really strong split push performance from this player in the previous game, and then it felt like Pognometron just wanted to keep doing that, even though the Alawi was denied from him, and it didn't work out on this Cho'Gath. It just got caught out, run down in that side lane over and over again. And it made it really difficult for the Grumps to maintain their lead and sort of play the macro out appropriately.
Yeah, certainly, and that does mean that if with one game apiece, the third game will decide it all between these two for this series. And honestly, like based on how the games have gone, we've kind of seen, like if the game will end early, probably going to be in GG's favor. But if it can be stalled, the standard comp should work reasonably well into the late game.
Yeah, definitely. We have seen at this point that the quick games not necessarily going in the favor of PSE Midnight, but they have shown that they have what it takes to take down this Grumpy squad with a little bit of a more scaling look. With these carries in the solo lanes, definitely looking pretty good. And 12 IQ in this one, way out ahead on those damage charts, 60k for the Gwen in this one. I mean, it does kind of make sense when you've got the big old Cho'Gath to be wailing on in the side lane all game. Maybe that is slightly inflated, but still, I feel like 12 IQ playing a really nice one here in game two. Who's your game two POG though? True.
I think it has to be 12 IQ, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
staying alive, getting that double kill super early, and then we talk about being able to control the game. It didn't really look like there was a point in which 12 IQ in particular was super pressured. Like just pretty much able to take every 1v1 each time.
Even
But
going
yeah,
back to like super early on, right? Like 3 or 4 minutes when Chobe tried to do that dive in the top lane and 12 IQ managed to outplay him in the 1v2. Like that was kind of the beginning. And PSE Midnight, certainly it was not clean from there. This was a very back and forth game. It,
oh
it
yeah,
definitely did look for a while there like the Grumps were actually going to be able to come back and take the win in the end. They had the dragon stacking. They were getting a lot of these picks that they need with a composition like this. They were winning the lanes again, but in the end, it was the side of PSE Midnight that came out on top. We'll see if they can do it again. You have any final thoughts on game two here, True, before we go to another short break?
maybe. Okay. Look, I'm really curious as to what GG is going to run as their support for game number 3. Are they gonna go for like the whole creative support thing, or are they gonna swap to a more standard? Uh, that's probably the biggest question mark on my head because that's how they seem to like play their drafts out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the LeBlanc this game was fine. Like, had those couple of roams to try and keep Captain down, in the early game as well. So, Avenel definitely able to get some stuff done with the unconventional support pick, but maybe playing to facilitate Xenodrix a little bit more, who is clearly very, very proficient in that marksman position, could be a little bit of a safer option for the side of the Grumpy Grumps. We'll just have to wait and find out in our next draft what they're going to go for. Before then, we are going to head into that short break. But don't go anywhere, guys. The exciting conclusion of tonight's best of 3 coming up right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to Style Esports Season 16, Week 5, into our Game 3 draft between PSE Midnight and the Grumpy Grumps. The Grumps electing to move over to the red side for this deciding Game 3, and we shall now see what other adaptations are going to come out true.
Yeah, it looks like Grompy Grumps putting a lot of respect towards the picks that worked out and scaled really well for PSE Midnight, the Gwen, and the Yasuo, no longer available as options. Midnight, on the other hand, still sticking with stuff similar to their bans from game number 2. I think it's the same first 3 bans, right? Jhin, Rengar, Alawi. Yep. Grumpy Grumps, yeah, they do not want strong solo laners for PSE. Okay. No Yasuo, no Yone, no Winbros, no Gwen.
There is the B1 Kaisa for Chaos. Probably the B1 pick that's made the most sense to me so far tonight.
Yeah, Kaisa definitely makes a lot of sense. Worked out really, really well for the side of PSE. Grumpy Grumps, they're hovering the Ahri. Okay. If anyone's watching this, they probably don't understand why we're laughing so much. But for everyone watching from home, Mockingbird decided to say, "So help me if you guys play Ahri support." But Grumpy Grumps, they lock in the Rakan. So unless they're really, really, really trying to upset Midnight and they're going to play Ahri support and Rakan mid, I think we're okay.
I mean, maybe the mental edge would actually be enough there to get the Grumps this last Nexus, but we're definitely, I think, not going to call our shots on this draft for the Grumpy Grumps until everything is all said and done.
We've learned. Yeah, we've learned from our last 2. Midnight, I like the Poppy response after seeing the Ahri and the Rakan, right? Having steadfast presence available so you can just ground any potential dashes for a couple of seconds is really, really nice. Ooh.
That is
Midnight locking Katarina. Is that Captain's one trick?
That's gotta be is Captain could this be?
I can't remember. I remember seeing someone on the roster as Katarina one trick at some point.
Yeah, Katarina most played 51 games this season. 53% win rate, so not the most egregious of win rates, but Katarina players I think can often struggle sometimes into certain picks, and that is a Cho'Gath.
Okay, well, if nothing else, I applaud Pognometron's consistency. Also, it doesn't have to worry about a Gwen this time around.
True.
So
or Yasuo.
Might feel a bit more confident going on to the Cho'Gath or Yasuo. You're right. Katarina, Kaisa, that's a lot of potential on-hit damage. Obviously, because Katarina with Death Lotus can apply those on-hit effects. But it's interesting to see, because this is the first time PSE's kind of run with something that doesn't feel super-duper standard.
Yeah, true.
I'm interested to see, how Captain pilots the one trick, the Katarina. Because kind of consistently, it's been contentious in mid lane to say the best. To say the worst, Luckified really had the better end of it in game number 2. So perhaps Captain will feel confident on the Hyper Comfort pick.
Yeah, Renekton's still open. If Luckified wants to pick up the Crocodile once again into the Katarina. Maybe not feeling as good about that as they were into the Yasuo.
And the we still want to assume that Ahri is the mid lane pick, right? But don't know for sure. You never know for sure, I think, with Grumpy Grumps. Darius as the lock-in for top lane. Still a strong, lane bully champion. Not quite, the same effect against the Cho'Gath that Gwen would have, but definitely still terrifying in its own right. Yes, looks like they're trying to decide what they want to lock in for jungle, which means Poppy's definitely going to support. Graves.
So that is a little bit AD heavy, but Kaisa with a little bit of AP in the kit, and the Katarina theoretically should be able to offer a good amount of that as well. So probably feeling pretty okay on that front. The Kazakhs last pick is something that I did not see coming true.
Yeah, especially because you already see the Poppy, right? It's not going to be exactly easy to be dashing,
Yeah.
dashing and jumping in on people. I will say PSE is almost completely absent in Gage this game.
That is, that
They
is true.
they are not going to have an easy fight or easy time taking fights in open spaces. Around Baron, around Dragon Pit, you might see opportunities there. But for the most part, if a fight's going to happen, it's Grompy Grumps who get to pull the trigger, whether or not they want to. Kind of interested to see how this is going to play out, because I keep looking back at that Katarina, because I see it so rarely in 5v5. Because a lot of people are like, well, we'll just CC the Katarina. It's easy.
Well, in that spirit, if we do look at what Grumpy Grumps have, they do have some good engage with the Rakan and the Ahri, but it's not the most reliable in terms of like instant CC. Like, yes, you have the quickness. That's probably the best tool that the Grumps have to sort of stop what Katarina is going to be wanting to try and do. But ultimately, I do think that there is going to be some room for Captain in these fights to try and pop off and strut his stuff on the one trick.
Yeah, I mean, so when you see a one-trick champion locked in, right, it's always the big question mark of, is this going to work really, really well, or is this going to crash and burn? Because when you one-trick something in solo queue, right, you're playing around yourself for the most part, and your own decision-making. It's different in 5v5. Like, things have to be a bit more coordinated, and you might not have the opportunity for as many, like, strong plays as you might find in less coordinated play. Or, your team is really confident in you and they set you up really, really well. I wouldn't say that this is exactly a composition that's oriented to set up a Katarina, but a lot of Katarinas are really good at making their own opportunities, like finding strong roams in lane. Will PSE Midnight be able to pull that off when there's an Ahri in lane and potentially stressing and potentially stressing the lane and shoving it forward? Maybe. But the other thing is that Ahri should also be fully capable of following a roam or roaming herself. So, big question mark for PSE Midnight.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the top lane is going to be really, really interesting to keep an eye on once again as well, right? I mean, we have Pognometron on this Cho'Gath once again. Our game 1 POG was able to hit the Nexus with some tentacles in that first game, but in game 2, it was 12 IQ, just absolutely cutting the side of the Grumpy Grumps to ribbons with a pair of magical scissors. So now on the Darius, see what 12 IQ is going to be able to do with an axe this time around. I do think that top lane could end up being really, really impactful once again. But to sort of jump off the mid lane point once again, True, I am doing a little bit of an extended dive into the stats for Captain here on the Katarina. And you may be interested to know that Katarina was, in fact, the most played for this player for the past 4 seasons, at least. Most notably, in 2021, played almost 600 games on the pick with a 58% win rate that season. So that's a lot of games on Katarina.
Yeah, that's a lot of experience. So definitely I will believe the captain's very confident in the pick. We'll see how it plays out against Luckified. Going back to a previous theme, jungle presence. This time around, because previously we saw Mockingbird play Sejuani, now Zac. So going on to a more carry-oriented jungler with the Graves, but then in addition to that, Chobe, right? We saw different jungle styles, right? You saw Viego game 1, then you saw J4 game 2, now on Kha'Zix, which was actually something that I believe was banned in game number 1. So interesting to see how these carry-oriented jungle picks are going to play, how they're going to affect both of their teams too.
Yeah, definitely. I am very surprised by the Kha'Zix last pick. I mean, if it was me jungling for the Grumpy Grumps here, I'm definitely looking at some more CC to try and lock down this Katarina, but not the option that Chobe decided to go for. Wanted more of a hard carry pick to try and get some more threats on the side of the Grumps. Maybe feeling like that was where it all went wrong, perhaps in game number 2, where they just ran out of gas in the late game, right? With the Kazakhs, that shouldn't be an issue that you're necessarily having in this case. So just wanting to bring a little bit more firepower onto the Rift here for game 3.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these comps, and also considering how we've seen Pognometron play previously, I would probably fully expect these are going to be rather squishy comps. Like, you might see some exception to that maxim between Poppy and Darius for the side of PSE, but otherwise, we know that Pognometron likes, these full damage, like bruiser-ish champions, tank-ish champions. But everyone else has a lot of damage. Graves, Katarina, Kaisa, and Kha'Zix, Ari, Zaya. That's a lot of potential for health bars just melting away in these team fights. And pretty much, with champions like this, right? Whoever pulls away first and starts building an incremental lead might end up snowballing that and cascading it into a monumental advantage.
Yeah, certainly the case. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, True, are you actually 0-2 on predictions tonight?
I am. I am. I think we should just make it a solid 0-3.
All right, then. Who's it not going to be for this last game?
Well, I have to say who I think is going to win for this to work, right? So,
that's true. Yeah,
I'm gonna say that I think that GG is going to win.
Okay, the Grompy Grumps coming back potentially after a tough game number 2 defeat at the hands of 12 IQ's Gwen and Captain's Yasuo on a couple of different picks this time around, as the Gwen and Yasuo have been banned away, but we'll see if the banning phase is actually going to be enough to fix those issues that did come out for the Grumps in that last game, or if PSE Midnight are going to be able to find what I believe is actually their first match win of the season. Don't go anywhere, guys. We're going to be right back with Style Esports Week 5 right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rift for our third and final game of the night in this best of three. The Grumpy Grumps moving over to the red side this time around. PSE Midnight on the blue. Quick shout outs to Wookie Monster and everybody over there at Nameless. Thank you very much for the raid, my friend. Everybody from Nameless who is on the stream over there. Welcome to Style. We have one more game in our best of three tonight here in week 5 between two teams who have kind of been struggling up to this point.
Yeah, as you were saying, certainly been struggling. Crewman, it's not Ari support. It's not Ari mid.
That's true. It is in fact the Ari in the top lane, it seems, this time around. But Luckified is playing it, so that is the mid laner who is playing the Ari. It just so happens to be doing so in the top lane.
They just decided to role swap it.
Yeah. And I mean, it does kind of make sense because Captain did pick the Katarina into the Ari, right? So that is the matchup that Captain wanted. And you can see the Cho'Gath here does seem to be having his way with the Katarina a little bit here at the level 1 mark.
Yep. And it's working out pretty well for him. You can also see Pognometron opted for the Grasp this time around. So it's going to be a bit more comfortable going for semi-extended trades. Out. Bot lane, just see there. Vano finally playing what one would call a standard support, going for Rakan. Has Glacial on him, though. Level 2. Wow, IQ.
Yeah, going to go in with the Ghost here. We also have a little bit of a scrap happening in the bottom lane as the charge into the wall, but the Rakan is able to battle dance back towards safety, and it's going to be Chaos. Definitely taking the worst end of that trade. Luckified, meanwhile, did not have to flash. The Artie will be okay in that top lane for now.
Chaos thought they had heal.
Oh, it's Ignite coming down onto Chaos. He's burning down in its Avanel. Flashing forward, gets down that last auto attack. Will be able to secure the first blood for the Grumpy Grumps. So now Alpaca is just a bull, and he is all alone. Not 2, but 1, and the Poppy will get taken down next. First kill of the game over to Xenodrix as well. Luckified getting pulled in once again. Lands the charm, though, in response. Mockingbird in the mid lane. Pognometron flashed away, trying to stay alive. Could be a kill onto the Katarina here to start things off. Underneath the turret we go, and away from that last turret shot goes the Captain. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath here early on, true, but in the aftermath, it's 1-2. Grumpy Grumps 1 kill lead so far.
Yeah, so let's start off where it began in the bot lane, right? So the moment... Oh
my goodness. The Captain was off to such a great start, too.
But anyway, to get back to that, right? The moment Chaos popped Cleanse, and the only thing I can assume is that they thought they had heal in that very moment, but the moment the Cleanse was popped, Ivano pinged Ignite, pretty much saying, I have Ignite ready, like, we can go for this. There's nothing that the Kaisa can do, and that's exactly what happened. Ivano gets the kill with, the Ignite auto. But otherwise, in the mid lane, you saw there that Pognometron got eaten up, unfortunately for him. And top lane, things have been contentious. Luckified's still capable of staying safe. Hasn't burned Flash, but as you were saying...
Predict on the Rupture there, but Pognometron may have set himself up for failure. In comes the Katarina. Cabbling for a little bit more. Another nice Rupture, though, from Pogtron. Will be the disengage on that fight, with Darius rotating down from the top lane as well. The Grumps did need to vacate the area.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really good that Luckified has just been... You've seen 12 IQ get aggressive with this Ari, right? Pretty much recognizing that if I'm gonna have an opportunity to kill Ari, it's gonna be here and it's gonna be now, before Spirit Rush is available, before she gets those 3 dashes. And 12 IQ has certainly been trying, but nothing's translated very well for that Darius. And now Luckified trying to stay safe, trying to make sure. Oh, I might have cursed him.
Got pulled in. Does still have the flash, but that passive is going to get stacked up. The flash will have to be used, and it's not going to save him as 12 IQ strutting a little bit, canceling a couple autos there at the end, just letting Luckified know that he had him right where he wanted him. That's going to be number 1 for 12.
Yeah, and honestly, now with 12 IQ's Ghost coming up relatively soon, it's going to be pretty nice for this side of PSE. Because now their solo laners seem to be in rather comfortable spots, right? Captain has died, one death apiece in the mid lane for both teams, but the other side of it is that Farm is even this time around. Oh, flash forward in the bot lane,
flashing for the blade caller. That was clean from Xenotrix, and the Ignite is burning down Chaos once again. Avenel with these Ignites, man. How many kills has this support got with Ignite tonight in the mid lane? It's level 6 Katarina. Captain looking to do something, has the Death Lotus. Got the kill on the Pognometron. The Cho'Gath burned down to the Ignite, but the Katarina will get traded back as Chobe just barely able to come out on top.
Yeah, but with that, that's Chove's second kill of the game. So now, if I'm PSE, I'm gonna start sweating a little because Kha'Zix has just been able to pick up 2 free kills in mid lane. Yes. Oh, wait, top lane though.
Spirit Rush not available yet for Luckify. Just now ticked over to 6 in the nick of time too, where that Ahri was probably dead once again.
Yeah, I mean, Luckify, honestly, being true to the name, getting very lucky there with that level up, able to get 6, get out. Now 12 IQ is down Ghost, so the Ahri is a little bit safer, can breathe a bit more easily. But yeah, they're in the mid lane again. Captain, being creative. Yeah. There's the Charm, here's the Kha'Zix.
Here he comes. He's only level 5 still is Chobe. Not quite able to get the ISO damage there, I don't think. There maybe have been a couple of minions left when the Q went off. Chaos continuing to eat some pretty rough trades down here, but at least did get the minion wave shoved in this time. Okay, here comes Mockingbird into the mid lane. A little bit of a slow with the smoke screen. Collateral damage not a possibility yet either, thankfully for Pogtron, who probably would be dead if the Graves ult had been available.
Yeah, and you can see the Cho'Gath itemizing defensively. Has that Giant's Belt in the inventory. Only thing is that I kind of half expect to see a Blasting Wand or something of the sort soon. Just given how the previous game has gone.
The Charm hit the cannon creep, and now the Death Lotus is going to come out, and the Captain is going to take a couple of heads. He says, "This is my ship, and you two are walking the plank."
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the sort of situation that Katarina wants to have, you know, capitalize off of a massive misstep from the side of Grumpy Grumps.
Even gets a plate, does the Katarina on top of that? What is that? Gold lead looking like in the mid lane now. 1,500 right now is the lead for Captain in the mid lane.
Yeah, and honestly, this lane swap is looking kind of catastrophic for the side of GG. You know, like it kind of looked like, okay, we'll hit them with the lane swap. We'll get the melee matchup in the mid lane, so Katarina doesn't have free reign to do whatever she wants. But then in top lane, you know, we'll have the range matchup into the Darius. Stay safe. Darius doesn't get fed, but now, Ahri's died twice, Cho'Gath died thrice. It's not looking great.
Yeah, definitely things not going according to plan for the Grumpy Grumps whatsoever. It looks like they will at least be able to secure this first dragon for themselves, so they will be happy about that at least. But overall, definitely the solo laners, the big difference makers, right? In game number 2 for the side of PSE Midnight are once again off to a pretty solid start. In goes Avenel, going to find a quickness only onto a support Poppy, who does manage to flash away and just barely stay alive. That was almost another kill with the Ignite. Not quite, though.
Decent opportunity found from the Rakan there, and I do like that Avenel's looking for it. Unfortunately for him, though, Steadfast Presence actually prevented him, Avenel from looking for the Grand Entrance, just for the additional CC and damage. And Poppy's able to run it out, stay safe. 12 IQ. Bit of an awkward position, though, but you do see Mockingbird coming up to help out.
Yeah, so it's going to be an honest 2v2, it looks like, in this top lane. The Apprehend does connect onto the Ahri, who is forced to use the Spirit Rush to get away from the Darius. In comes Cho'Gath, though. Pogtron looking to make this a numbers fight in favor of the Grumps. But Cho'Gath walking over a couple of wards there will give Midnight all the information they need to back away from that one. And goes Captain. And open with the Death Lotus here. Pognometron already chunked down pretty low. Dark Harvest proc acquired for the Captain.
Yeah, and you can see that there's already completed Master's Tooth for the Katarina. It's a lot of damage added onto Death Lotus, as well as just being able to push that wave forward. So I think genuinely this is the first time we're seeing in laning phase that GG have no real advantages to play through. Obviously, Chobe has 2 kills in the pocket, and you can see that with Avenel as well, but it's kind of hard for Avenel to find opportunities for themselves in their own lane, as long as Poppy has W available. And as for the Kha'Zix, those 2 kills were just on Captain, like, really mispositioning, overstaying. And since then, we haven't seen The Kazakhs find a great opportunity for a gank. Oh, bot lane,
Yeah,
though.
I mean, well, that's a block on the dash. Avenel, I think. Oh, it's
Yeah.
charged into the wall, and that's going to be a shutdown. The Rakan had some extra money in his pocket, so now it's all going to go to Chaos on this Kaisa. Big news for Midnight now in the one lane that still was struggling a little bit, right? This bot side, and now Chaos with a big infusion of gold. Could mean 3 winning lanes for PSE Midnight, and Herald already in pocket for Mockingbird, just immediately gonna drop this one. We do have Chobe waiting in the wings right now, gonna be looking for an angle. Oh, that's Xenodrix with another flash for the Blade Caller. Flies up in the air with the feathers from Xenodrix, absolutely popping off in the 1v3. In comes Captain, though. The Katarina's ready for the cleanup, and that's gonna be another double kill over to this cat in the mid lane. Captain, true to his name, leading the team towards victory. In the top lane, the bleed almost enough to take down Luckfied, as well as 12 IQ is also running that solo lane for the second game in a row. Oh, now it's Cap maybe a little bit behind enemy lines, but has his jungler in the area as well.
It's precarious. Like the spot that Grumpy Grumps find themselves in, they're not really capable of finding opportunities for themselves. We just saw them try to force something with Chobe in the bot lane. They were able to kill Chaos, that's great, but this Katarina, 500 gold bounty already at 12 minutes is absolutely terrifying if you are the side of GG.
Okay, Mockingbird is going to get burst down here. So didn't respect the possibility that there could have been Kazakhs in that bush, and they will make him pay for that one.
So the other thing that I'm seeing now is that Pognometron went for first item Heartsteel, which done in 12.5 minutes, not the greatest, but you have to factor in you've died 3 times in lane. Other part of that, though, is now you have to opt into situations where you are keeping yourself close to enemy champions to get your autos in.
Yeah.
Not sure if you're really going to find many of those or if that's what you want to do.
Well, there you go. There was a couple. Okay, so, I mean, bright side for the Grumpy Grumps. Couple of Heartsteel procs for Pogtron. Huh?
Yeah, I think it's great to get that against Poppy. Poppy's probably the one that you can viably get it against, as long as she's not going to keep his verdict you out of the lane. Kaisa, Chaos being in range as well, that's a little bit of a misstep, but it's not going to,
Oh, 12 IQ. Maybe the charm will connect, as you say, True. A very nice charm to set that one up from Luckified. But this mid lane and the bot lane also are starting to look very, very grim for the side of the Grompy Grumps. Gonna be a little bit grumpy how this game is going.
They certainly are. I mean, there's not much for them to play around as far as advantages go, right?
Can we land the rupture? Do we hit? He's not even. Oh, okay. Respectful from the captain. Saw that one coming.
Pognometron has to feel pretty satisfied just knowing that you can stay alive in that situation. Got one more Heartsteel proc up to 83 already, which is pretty healthy.
Here we go. Huge.
Yeah, I mean, in this sort of situation, right? Every little thing counts, and it looks like Pognometron wants to present themselves as the main tank for their team, be the front line. They were lacking pretty desperately last game. But, yeah, for the first time, pre-15 minutes, you can see here that GG is at a definitive disadvantage. Whoa, I was just saying you were staying safe.
Fates of the Feast is available for Pogtron, so Captain has to be a little bit careful here, and will ultimately just decide that this isn't really a fight that he wants to take right now. The Katarina, with a couple K gold in pocket right now, really would like to get back to the fountain to spend that before going for any more engagements.
Yeah, it's also a question of having to chew through 2,000 health, Cho'Gath right now. So, not exactly the easiest of prospects if you are Captain. Looks like
they're looking for him, but Alpaca is here. Oh, the flash for the grand entrance. Is it going to be enough? Chobe is here, and he has the damage, and the shutdown goes over to the Kazakhs. Chobe now, with all of that gold influxed into him, is going to be in position to try and turn this game around for the Grumps.
I mean, so one thing, you can still see with the total gold that right now PSE are still at the objective, gold advantage, which is rather unsurprising. But then when you factor in the fact that now Chobe, that was almost 1,000 gold into the pocket, getting the shutdown on Captain. This Kha'Zix has kind of been like silently getting more and more terrifying, right? 300 gold bounty, working towards that second item now. But what it also does is, if you take a look at the gold, you can see Chobe has a 2k gold advantage, and yet somehow, like, the outright gold advantage is still going over to PSE, and that's because Captain got all those kills. It's almost getting close to 3,000 gold ahead of Pognometron. So the Katarina really is that terrifying. And if you factor in the gold everywhere else, pretty much everywhere else except support and jungle, you will see that PSE Midnight have gold advantages on their champions, but the Cho'Gath, or sorry, not the Cho'Gath, the Kha'Zix still is quite terrifying, able to find those assassinations that are working out really,
realistically,
really well.
I feel like, they baited him in, but Captain, he might get the kill anyway. He does get it, but once again, Chobe is going to pick up the kill in response. Shirley will not be able to charge. She will be denied. Chobe getting took down extremely low. The Blade Caller, the knockup will be there. They take down the jungler, and now it's Alpaca on the run. The Rupture, will it land? The sidestep from the Poppy keeps her safe. The Grand Entrance not quite going to find the mark either, and it will be the disengage, but it's the side of the Grumpy Grumps finding some signs of life now as we enter the mid game. The top tier one will fall, but yes, the Darius flank is here. 12 IQ is looking to clean this one up, should be able to do so pretty comfortably. Even has the ultimate, going to be able to cut Rakan's head off. And now
coming in.
His lover Zaya is going to go up into the air with the Feather Storm, but it's not going to save her, as two birds of a feather will be felled by one great axe. 12 IQ picking that one up. Chobe with the blast going over the wall, trying to get back towards safety, will be able to do so. Big move from the top laner of PSE Midnight, right as the Grompy Grumps were starting to build up some momentum for themselves. 12 IQ moves in and puts a stop to it.
Yeah, and you could see, I don't want to say desperation, but the priorities of the side of Grompy Grumps, because they wanted to take that tier 1 mid turret, open up the map a little bit more. But, with such low health bars on Cho'Gath, on Rakan, you have to think, like, okay, well, we know where these champions are. We were able to get the kill here and there. Where's the Darius? And finally, when you see Darius, he's already in mid lane. It's already too late for you guys. Able to get some kills back in return. TPs came out as well from both Captain and Luckified. Didn't ultimately matter though, because 12 IQ is just able to use his axe, get those kills. Now, Dragon is coming up. It's Infernal this map. It's a lot of damage on the table for whichever teams can be securing them and stacking them up. And honestly, with how things are going right now, I kind of expect PSE to have the stronger team fight just off of how much Katarina can have as far as influence goes.
Yeah, I definitely do think. Okay, we got the Apprehend coming in here. 12 IQ getting burst down right at the start of this one. He is going to get feasted on, but the Ahri gets traded back. And look at Captain go. Yeah, he's just absolutely taking over in this fight. That's a fed Katarina for you. And that is going to be 3-1 in that team fight. PSE Midnight picking up their first Infernal.
Yeah, 3-1. 12 IQ completely happy with that. His team is able to get that Dragon, start stacking them up quite nicely. And also, I guess the one silver lining, so to speak, for this side of Grumpy Grumps. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he dodges away from where the... Oh, my. Oh, the moves. Captain on the Katarina. Don't give him this pick ever again if you want to win a game against the guy. Holy.
Man, that was
ridiculous.
That was terrifying. Like Xeno, but like that's the other thing against a lot of assassins, right? You try to create a lot of space as much as possible, but they end up following you. Avenel on the hunt, looking for something here.
Gonna pop the Shirelias. The flash.
Ooh, nice dodge.
It's the Killer Instinct. Will have to come out from Chaos. That is a decent trade for the Rakan, who's managed to get out pretty lengthy cooldown, but oh, Captain's going to find Chobe here, and now it's the Katarina who's going to get the jump and win that battle of assassins. That's usually how it goes in a battle between two assassins. Whoever strikes first usually wins, and that was certainly true there.
Yeah, I mean, Chobe honestly looked like had no idea, and with the jungler off the map, that is the easy call for Midnight to start up this Baron.
Decent chip damage onto Alpaca Bowl over the wall from Luckified, but probably not going to be enough. I mean, without a jungler, you can't contest the smite. You do have a Cho'Gath, but he's on the other side of the map right now, getting cut into by this Darius. The Baron will go over right at 20 minutes. PSE Midnight absolutely massively ahead now in this game.
Yeah, they are at, I would say, a relatively commanding lead. 4K, 21 minutes.
Oh, the axe, the bleed. He has one more Q as well. The Triumph heal keeps the Darius alive through the last turret shot. Is going to have to pop the Ghost to run away from the very scary insect. But well worth it, I think, for the top laner of Midnight.
I mean, if you are the side of Grumps, right? Like, what are you trying to play through, right? You know, like, you have to figure out some sort of way back into this game, and you can't really do much with Ahri, right? You have a Liandry's tier Ahri. It's not going to translate into much, personal opinion, from here. You're 0-4 and 3. You're at a CS deficit.
So far behind.
You are essentially a charm bot. I hate to say that, but that is your role right now. Kha'Zix is decently strong, but also there's not much to do in terms of team fighting. So right now, I think the problem with GG is that they're kind of like SOL on options to find an avenue into this game. They can't team fight. They can't split push. And when they've gone split for picks,
we got a little bit of play in mid lane. Avenel once again going to find a big charm with the quickness into the back line, but they're not able to finish anybody off, and the collateral damage in response is going to take down Luckify. The damage just isn't there for the Grompy Grumps. I don't know if it's miscoordination or if they're just too far behind. In comes the captain. Nobody gets locked up. There is Katarina's greatest weakness, crowd control. Hit her with a little bit of that, and suddenly the assassin isn't so scary anymore.
All right, Captain feeling himself a bit, right?
Yeah, he wanted to go between the turrets there. That'll be a chaos going in now with Killer Instinct as the top laner is continuing to scrap. And the bot lane as well. 12 IQ getting pretty low down here. Feast available. The Nocturne Guillotine will come out first, though. And the healing is too much from the Darius. Cho'Gath cannot get him low enough. 12 IQ with the Baron buff on for 45 more seconds. Going to be able to keep splitting in this bot lane. Meanwhile, in mid, the base is falling. They didn't find any additional kills, did Midnight here in the mid lane, but they chunked down those health bars low enough to where they could force their way into the base with the Baron buff. Charm already used. Luckify spear rushing back in. Will bait out the exhaust at least. The inhibitor will fall. Looks like the inhibitor falling in bot right now as well. The Keeper's Verdict going to knock a couple people back into their Nexus turrets. 12 IQ not able to continue the siege just yet. But it is PSE Midnight absolutely making their opponents look silly even after losing their turbo-fed mid laner.
Yeah, and Midnight, like, that small 4K advantage they had 2 minutes ago, right? Ballooned. You know, very clearly 7K at this point. Super healthy, to say the very least. You know, dominating, if we're being honest. They are at a point where they can kind of do whatever they want. They took their time. They got their backs in just now because the entirety of GG has to be careful. They don't have map space. They don't have vision, so they have to walk as a group towards this dragon. And speaking of not being in a group,
Luckify in trouble. Will be able to spear rush away, and 12 IQ is going to be forced to flash away from that grand entrance. A big cooldown used off of the Darius. Alpaca trying to do a little bit of zoning here, and the dragon will be secured. Side of the Grumps not able to get into the river in time, and now the engage is going to come out as Alpaca is going to find the charge into the wall. They're able to blow up the Ahri. In goes Katarina into the back line, but they do burst down the captain once again. Avenel pretty low, but able to support the team from a distance, and it's going to be the side of Grumpy Grumps. They'll be able to fight back a little bit here, but it's Chobe who's the main carry, and he can't stick in the fight long enough to do the consistent damage. The Void Seeker coming out from Chaos will finish off the Cho'Gath, and 4 for 2 is the team fight in addition to the objective of Midnight.
It's over.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice. True, 12 IQ is on the Nexus. You're absolutely right. Then Chobe, the last surviving member, is not going to be able to do anything, but he does get his head cut off one last time as 12 IQ moves in there for the guillotine. The Nexus will fall at 25 minutes, and PSE Midnight with an absolutely massive win here in Week 5.
Yeah, I mean, really well done by Midnight. I will say really quick, I am now 0 for 3. We did it. We did it.
We got you to the 0.
But that being said, very well done by the entirety of Midnight for this game. They had a sub 30-minute win, uh, just over 25 minutes this time around. But honestly, it was really good reading where you need to do on the map. I think a lot of people, if they were in 12 IQ's shoes, they tend to just look at the fight and they're like, oh, well, like we can just win the fight, secure the dragon. But you know that the base has already been pierced open. You're Darius.
Yeah.
Like you can just push the towers down. Uh, Either way, you're pressuring super super hard, and the rest of the team they were on the same page. They said, "All right, we'll get the dragon. We'll pressure the enemy team to make sure that they can't do anything. They can't get their backs off." And Midnight, they secure the win.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ultimately, it was the side of the Grumpy Grumps and myself kind of falling victim to not having that full map awareness and not realizing that 12 IQ had that angle to just walk right into the base and look for the end. So I mean, props to 12 IQ and the rest of PSE Midnight for actually playing that out in a really intelligent way. But they did have a pretty huge lead at that point anyway. Captain with a couple of misplays down there towards the very end of the game. He wanted to really put this one in the highlight reel. Wasn't quite able to find it, ultimately, but still overall very, very strong performance on the Katarina. And yeah, I mean, PSA Midnight, it really felt like in games 2 and 3 they were kind of firing on all cylinders across the board. Everybody playing really well.
Yeah, I mean I think that game 2 win put a lot of wind in their sails, so to speak, and tempo is a huge thing heading like in the series, right? So game number 1 for PSE, they took a pretty harsh loss. Game number 2, they were able to weather the storm. They found their win and headed into the decisive game of a series. Having won the previous one is a lot of confidence to have, and they certainly played like it, even in spite of that weird lane swap they had to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, maybe even because of the lane swap in part, right? Is that really did not work out at all for the Grumpy Grumps. I think we did understand what they were trying to accomplish, with that swap, but both of their solo laners ended up getting taken apart pretty severely in this last one.
Yeah, absolutely. But that being said, Midnight they find their opportunities. They win the series 2-1, and hopefully they can carry that momentum forward into their future matches. Unfortunately for GG, I think the definite thing I will say about GG is that the way that they play is very entertaining. Um, I think that when it comes to competitive, a lot of teams kind of obsess about like what's the best way to win, like how do we play towards our win cons. But GG, they kind of threw that out the window a little and said, we're gonna do what we want here, and it's fun. It's fun to watch. Can you say that it's super intelligent or incredibly well thought out? No, not necessarily, but it's definitely entertaining. And at the end of the day, if you're entertained, I think uh, that's definitely something that I can walk away with happy knowing that I do. So
Absolutely.
very well done to them. Like obviously, game one and game 2, like that was almost in their hands. They almost had the series 2-0. But
Yeah. Yeah.
certainly, at the bare minimum, they are fun to watch, and hopefully they can continue pulling that off and work with their own style.
I do really like that you mentioned that, True. The fact that the Grumps were so close to actually pulling off the 2-0 tonight. In another world, that could have been the reality that we saw. But of course, that did not end up being the case. So commiserations to the Grumps on not quite being able to pull it out and ultimately losing out in tonight's match. In the end, True, do you feel like did it more come down to the draft? Was it the lane swap? Was it just the gameplay itself that you feel like was the issue? Were they just outplayed by PSE Midnight in this last game, or where do you think it all started going wrong for the Grumps?
Okay. So for one thing, the the one trick, right? Captain having that Katarina available in the pocket for game number 3 in this very tense situation. You said you were explaining it yourself that Captain's very very experienced on that champion. So when you take someone that's supremely experienced on their main one trick champion, and your choice going into that is to lane swap your top laner into the mid lane, with the hopes that you can stabilize. That's kind of you're hoping for a lot here, because you're hoping to throw off someone who is already very confident from the previous game, and that's only bolstered by the fact that they are on the champion that they know best, into something, and you're placing your top laner into mid lane, which, you know, maybe that's their choice as well, but they're going to be less comfortable there. And it worked out really, really well for Captain. Yeah, there were some missteps with dying twice early to Chobe, but that's one issue. The other issue is, you know, you're swapping your mid lane up top, and yes, in theory, having a ranged champion against Darius, you should be able to stay safe. But we already saw it too, right? Like, the moment 12 IQ hit level 2, Pop's Ghost runs straight for the Ahri.
Absolutely. 12 IQ, not really giving Luckfied much room to breathe in that one. So I think I'm pretty much in agreement with you, True. I do think that it really did kind of come down to maybe some choices once they did make it onto Summoner's Rift, and then just kind of getting outplayed by the Katarina one trick, which can happen when a player is that skilled on a specific champion. So, the Grumps definitely had some things going for them tonight, hoping they can bounce back in future matches. But one last question for you, True, before we close out the stream tonight. Your Game 3 POG. I do need to get another vote from you. It was the top laners in our first 2 games tonight. Is it 12 IQ again? Are we 3 for 3 on top laners? Probably not, right?
No, I really got to give it to Captain.
I think we do.
Completely dominated the game. Like, certainly knew exactly what to do with Katarina, capitalizing on mistakes, but also doing what I mentioned before, that a lot of strong Katarina players essentially make their own luck. They find what they need to do, and they force it, and it works out really, really well for them.
Yeah, certainly what we saw in this case. It's Captain just finding the plays, and once they did have a hold on the game, the team really took it in stride and kind of ran it straight into the Nexus for that 25-minute victory. So really well done to them. I do want to give a brief honorable mention to Alpaca Bowl, the support there on the side of PSE Midnight. I thought the Poppy pick in itself was really intelligent, right? Like just the pick in draft. But then also I thought the play was pretty nice. It was able to play it out actually pretty aggressively down there in the bot 2v2, and had that really nice keeper's verdict in one of those team fights down the stretch as well to sort of put the nail in the coffin. Do you have any final thoughts on this match, True? Any other words for the stream? Anything else you wanted to mention?
I guess my one final thing is that, I casted on and off here in Style for so long. This is my first time casting for them in a while. It's always been nice to cast here, and I'm glad that I can do it. Glad that I can cast alongside you, Crewman. I know that we've worked really pretty well over the past couple of years, that whenever we run into each other. Yeah. So, thank you to everyone for watching, and thank you to Style for this opportunity.
Absolutely. A big shout outs to Style and all the admins here in the Style League. We appreciate all of the work that you guys do. And of course, Drew, I'm very, very happy to have you back here as well. It was wonderful to cast alongside you once again. And it was also wonderful to cast for all of you out there in Twitch chat. From myself, from True here, from the entire production and admin teams over here at Style. Thank you, everybody, so very much for being here, for watching the stream with us. We hope to see you next time. I don't know if we have any games this weekend. I don't see anything on the schedule right now, but just stay tuned. We'll be sure to... Oh, I take it back, actually. We do have, looks like a match scheduled for tomorrow at 9:15 Eastern. Do still need one more caster for that one, it looks like. But assuming we are able to find one, there will be some more entertainment for you here tomorrow night. So stay tuned for that one, but that is going to do it for us for now. So thank you again for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your night.